Someone from WFYI saying that we need to be in a different input because we're in the one.
A different input?
Yeah, she's saying that they need the one that we're in or something.
th, 2022. The colors will be posted this evening by the JROTC cadets from Shortridge High School. Would you please stand for the posting of the colors?
Mark time. March. Color guard. Hope. Left. Face. Preset. Colors.
Please join me in saying the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Perry. Colors. outward, face, forward, march. Color guard, hold. Ready to post. Post. Present. Arms. Order. Arms. Mark time. March. Forward. March.
Sign language interpretation and language translation services available for those here in the meeting this evening. If there's a Spanish speaker present this evening that would benefit from a translation headset that provides real-time translation services, please raise your hand and a staff member will make sure you receive a headset. All right, we'll move on to roll call. Welcome, Commissioners, Dr. Johnson, and members of our community to the meeting this evening. Mr. James, would you please call the roll?
Commissioner Arnold. Present. Commissioner Collins.
Present.
Commissioner Pritchard.
Present.
Commissioner Slack.
Present.
Secretary Allen.
Present.
Vice President Moore. Present. President Hawkins.
Present. Thank you, Ms. James. We'll now move to adopting the agenda for tonight's meeting. The agenda was reviewed on Tuesday during our agenda review session, reflects all necessary modifications and additions. Reviewing the agenda, are there any requests or changes to the agenda as presented this evening? Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve this evening's agenda?
Second.
Motion and second. Commissioners, any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? The agenda this evening is adopted. Moving to section 2, specifically 2.1, we're very excited this evening to have the opportunity to recognize and honor a very special retiree from the IPS family who has in excess of 20 years of service to the district. Commissioner Moore would like to take the opportunity to tell us about this remarkable individual. Commissioner Moore.
The IPS Board of School Commissioners is honored tonight to recognize and honor the retirement of Sybil Brown. Mrs. Brown has devoted 26 years to the IPS community, most recently as school counselor. Lou Wallace Principal Arthur Hinton offered the following remarks. What I will miss most about Miss Brown is her genuine concern for people. Her willingness to support all people and empower them to be their best is a characteristic that added value to our space. We appreciate her time and support. So do the Board of Commissioners recognize you and appreciate you for all that you have done for the past 26 years.
All right, we're going to ask if you wouldn't mind coming up to the podium or the platform, and we'd like to honor you with a certificate as well as a few other IPS items as well. I'd have been podium. Just in case you need an umbrella. I also want to offer you this wonderful certificate of appreciation. All right, always exciting. We're going to move to section 3 of the agenda for opening commissioner comments. We'll begin with Commissioner Arnold.
Thank you, President Hawkins. I'd like to read a memorial to Christopher Walker. Whereas Christopher Walker served the Indianapolis Public Schools for 1 year, whereas his years of service contributed positively and significantly to the Indianapolis Public School students. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Board of School Commissioners of the City of Indianapolis that the death of Christopher Walker be memorialized and that a copy of this memorial be sent to the members of his family. During his year of service, Christopher worked as a staff custodian at Christian Park 82. Christopher Walker was respected by the students and staff at Christian Park 82 Elementary for his dedication to his work, willingness to do what was needed to complete the task, selflessness, and desire to get to know something about everyone. He liked to chat with the students and staff about their day and experiences. He will be greatly missed by the students and staff members at Christian Park 82.
Thank you, Commissioner Arnold. Commissioners, any additional opening remarks or comments? Commissioner Pritchard.
Thank you. I've got another poem to read here. This is from a student at Shortridge, a class of 2022, and the poem is entitled Shortridge. There is this place, I see it every day. The architecture is old but beautiful. It smells of paper and old books. With all the people I've met in this vintage building, it really is like a second home now. The ambiance of teenagers echoes the halls, laughter and joyful conversations. This place is a school. It's classical, but the children are much younger than the architecture itself. The hoodies, colorful hair, makeup, and technology speak of this before their words do. My favorite times are breakfast, lunch, and passing periods. As eager teens gather up to meet with friends, joyful vibes fill the air along with the hustle and bustle of rushing pupils heading to their classes to craft futures for themselves. During breakfast and lunch, the warm smell of fresh hot food creeps through the halls like a sneaky fox catching its prey. High schoolers gather with friends like it's a night out, along with the sound of a piano playing in the background. I originally went to this school to pursue a career in art, and I had no idea then that this school would change my life so much. All of the faces I've met, the support, love, and laughter. This place truly is a second home. My friends, my second family. The love and support and good memories are motivation to pursue my dreams and move forward. Although my dreams have changed, my friends still support me to achieve my goals and wishes. They treat it as if it is theirs, holding my hand every step of the way and helping me heal from my past troubles. There is something beautiful about having friends. They are like flowers blooming nicely in the spring. However, this is only the beginning of my friendships. More great things are sure to come for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Pritchard. That was great. Commissioners, any other? Oh yeah, we can definitely applaud that. Thank you. Appreciate the prompt. Commissioners, again, congratulate Andrea Hundley. We'll refer to her as Senator-elect Hundley, who joins a long list of IPS change makers primed to make a transformational difference out of what she will continue to do in service to the community as well as the state of Indiana. I also want to offer congratulations to a few individuals, particularly at-large Commissioner-elect Angie Moore, as well as Section 3.02 to public comment. I'd like to mention that we continue to accept written public comments through our online portal. The written public comment portal is available under the school board tab at myips.org and will remain open until 4 p.m. on Thursdays. At this time,
As you make your way to the stage, please state your name for the record. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Shonda Campbell. I'm the principal of George Julian K through 8 school currently. And with 3 minutes, there's so much I would like to say about the plan. But first of all, I would like to say that initially I said to everyone who would listen that if we did what was right for kids, that the adults would be okay. I said that at a time when I wasn't sure what that meant for George Julian and what the plan would look like. I have to say that once I saw the plan for George Julian, I was very optimistic. But my community was not without concern. They were concerned about the K-8 configuration. When we first, 6 years ago, I had a group of parents who were trying to make decisions for their students. They didn't want to go through the lottery. They wanted to go to their neighborhood school. And one of the things that they were optimistic about is the opportunity for their kids to be in a K-8 environment. So when they heard the plan, they were a little nervous about the K-8 experience changing to a K-5 experience and their kids going to a standalone middle school. But the conversation that we've had at George Julian from the very beginning, when I met with those 2 parents in the conference room and then with the 27 parents in the library, is that we need to make decisions that are good for all kids. And so even though they are mourning the loss of that experience of their kids being together in K-8, for 8 years, those same 25 kids sitting next to each other for 9 years, they are accepting of the fact that as a district, we need to do what's best for all kids. So the one thing that I would like to say and what I would hope is that as I sat through the meetings, this meeting a couple of months ago, and I heard all of the public comments, and many of the parents were saying that I don't think I can stay here if the configuration is going to change. What my George Julian families are saying is that they intend to stand by their kids and they intend to stand by the district. Just like they've shown up at George Julian for the last 6 years, they plan to show up at Thomas Carr and support their middle schoolers. And so that's what I would like to encourage all parents. I know that there's a loss in terms of thinking of what your child's school experience would be, but I'm encouraging you to show up. We have an opportunity to support middle schools in a way that we are not used to in the middle school setting because you have been showing up at a KA environment until your kid went on to high school. So what would happen in this district if those parents showed up at middle schools and supported in that same way? So that is what I'm hoping will happen on the other side of this decision. Thank you.
Ella Harris, followed by Michael Harris, and Ronak Shah, if present.
Hi, my name is Ella Harris. I teach math at Harshman Middle School. On behalf of my many colleagues and students and families, I want to thank the board for adjusting the plan to include a fully public Harshman Middle School, and I would encourage you to vote yes. We are excited to work with Potter teachers, Theodore Potter School 74 teachers, and our community partners and families to build a truly excellent dual immersion and high ability program. Please visit in the future. Expect to continue to hear great things about the excellent work we are doing at Harshman. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Michael Harris. I'm the assistant principal at Butler Lab School 60. And if you knew me, you would know that it would take a lot to get me to come here after a long day of work. So I want you to know that my background is very similar to many of our kids in the district. Struggle was an everyday thing for my single mom. And school was truly, like the Shortridge poem, my second home. It was the opportunity of a lifetime to reshape my future, and my schools gave me that. And obviously I stand here as proof as trying to dedicate that moving forward. When I see the plan before us, I completely agree with the plan. I think being in a K-8 space right now, understanding how master schedules work, trying to put that jigsaw puzzle together, it's difficult, and there are sacrifices that have to be made every single day to make that work. I think this plan directly addresses those concerns that we deal with on an everyday basis. From courses to facilities to programs, this Rebuilding Stronger plan addresses those things specifically and offers those kids, those preteen students who are so special, that space that they need to grow as individuals, and more importantly, to transition to a high school space that is going to be very different for them. And so I understand that decisions are hard. Those of you sitting there understand this very well. But we have to make decisions for the long term. And I think this plan sets us up for being successful in the long term. Thank you.
Ronak Shaw, followed by Angela Dunbar, and if present, Jennifer Buchanan.
Sorry, a little bit short. Good evening, commissioners, and thank you for the time to speak. My name is Ronak Shah. I'm a middle school science teacher. I'm in my 11th year of teaching, and as a lot of teachers in the room know, a lot of times we get handed a plan that somebody else made, and we have to make the most of it. And so I try to set aside the process and really focus on the plan, and there is just so much that I like in it that I hope we don't lose sight of. I wanted to name some of it today. I would hate to see any of the best things of this plan cast aside. I see Rebuilding Stronger as guaranteeing a new baseline of opportunities that all students have access to no matter where they live in the district. Students in any zone have access to STEM, Montessori, dual language, performing arts programs, which I'm particularly excited about because I was in like 7 different performing arts when I was in middle school and high school, and I miss it quite a lot. With transportation to get there, pre-K opportunities better spread out. Everybody knows these things, but for me, I'm especially excited about the standalone middle schools. I know there are other viewpoints in the room, but in my experience, a building that really focuses on those middle grades just has the ability to support students grow and develop socially in a unique and a very necessary way. In Rebuilding Stronger, every middle school student will be able to learn a musical instrument. They'll learn a second language beginning in 7th grade. There's opportunities for sports to go into the second string. There's just things you can do with a large enough standalone middle school that opens up a lot more opportunities for more students. A lot of our smaller middle schools in the city and Center Township they can't provide these opportunities consistently year upon year, and that leaves students with an experience where they just start focusing on their standardized test scores, which is not enriching to anyone, adults or students. Rebuilding Stronger puts forward middle schools that can actually teach the whole student and prepare them to choose from a lot of different paths while making that time really memorable. When I listened to the poem about Shortridge, I was just thinking, like, what if people were writing poems about middle school too, the same way, which is hard to imagine because middle school is usually not the most memorable time for many people, but I am excited to see what's possible with this plan. Since the start of the pandemic, I have lost many friends who've left the teaching profession, usually due to burnout, and it's really discouraging. It's honestly lonely at times to be in the classroom when others have moved on. But I love teaching. I love the curiosity, the insight, the growth that I get to be part of every day, and I am not ready to leave it, and I'm not ready to leave IPS. So I'm really happy to say that I see a place for myself in this plan and in Rebuilding Stronger, and I see like my classroom future for decades to come in this district. So, and I know I'm not alone. I've talked to many other teachers who feel the same way, and so I'm excited to speak in support of the plan. Thank you.
Angela Dunbar, followed by Jennifer Buchanan, if present, Beth Reedman.
Good evening. My name is Angela Dunbar, and my son Noah attends Francis W. Parker Montessori 56. He's in the 4th grade and has attended there since pre-K. Let me just begin by saying public speaking is not my thing, and it is my birthday, so bear with me, please. And I'm here to tell you tonight how I've watched my son prosper at the Parker Montessori 56. My Noah is not your stereotypical little black boy. He's not into sports. He's more of an artsy kid, and he is an only child, and he's majorly around adults all the time. Before he began school, I didn't know what to think about Montessori. In fact, if you would have asked me, I would have said it was primarily for white privileged kids, and it just wasn't gonna work out for him. However, I'm here tonight to tell you that my son has blossomed because of his Montessori education. Noah is a hands-on kid. He learns by doing, not just by someone telling him something or copying down something on a piece of paper. When he was in pre-K, I went to a presentation to learn more about Montessori, and to my surprise, he was part of the actual presentation. I watched my son sort, twist, screw, and unscrew nuts and bolts, demonstrating his proficient motor skills and classifying ability. I had no idea he even knew anything about that in pre-K, so it was great for me because he's a Montessori school. Noah's allowed to learn at his own speed and at his own level, and in a way that's individualized just for him. He gets to learn the best way he knows how to learn. The self-paced activities and materials have allowed him to learn and prosper into a dependable, conscious 4th grader who I am extremely proud of. In fact, just the other morning, he told me, "Mom, we have to hurry up and get to school. I have to get to my morning buddy." So it turns out that Noah is paired with another younger student, and it's just I'm glad that he's in multi-age classrooms where he has the opportunity to practice empathy and the Montessori values of grace, courtesy, and peace every single day. I'm here tonight because Noah has been able to be comfortable learning at a pace that that's geared toward the child, not a place where everyone is doing the same thing at the same time. And because he has done so well, I joined the PTA and wanted to learn more about Montessori. My son Noah is an amazing kid, and that is in large part due to everyone at Francis W. Parker Montessori. Thank you.
Hey, Ms. Dunbar, happy birthday, by the way.
Jennifer Buchanan, followed by Beth Reedman, and if present, Tyrell Collins.
Good evening. My name is Beth Reedman, and my son Gray is one of Noah's best friends at Francis W. Parker. I am a parent, obviously, there, and also a substitute teacher occasionally. At the beginning of the year, I was there most days. And first off, I wanted to say thank you to everyone that's worked on this plan. As someone who has worked in HR operations for a large statewide nonprofit with multiple sites, I understand that this is not easy to do in that game of Tetris, in that game of telling people your building will no longer be there, telling people their role will no longer be there, and it is not a fun job, so I commend all the staff, the board, and other contractors that have assisted in working in that. While you've heard a lot from different Montessori communities, I think you've got an email from me that 56 is a little bit unique. We are more reflective of the district than most other magnet schools, and with that, our voice is a little bit different than what you might sometimes hear, but we're here to say we're in support of this plan. We understand, of course, I would love it to stay pre-K 8, right? If you know me, you know I had a spreadsheet to pick all the schools, and you got bonus points if you went up to 8th grade, but I understand and learned a new term this week that I'm going to start using called the Weston Cliff, that if we don't do something, we're all going to fall off that Weston Cliff. Vivian is one of my son's best friends also. So I'm going to use that to my advantage. But so if I understand the fact that if we don't make a change, that there is a cliff effect here, that something has to change. My boyfriend who's from Pike Township was like, is IPS even going to exist in 5 years? And I'm like, that's a good question. If we don't make changes, that won't happen. And since this plan is for all children, I understand that my sacrifice is worth that all children will be okay. My son will be successful. He got a perfect score on iRead at 56 as the son of a single mom who grows up on the east side, and he will continue to thrive in that setting. And I know there's been some concerns about the inquiry-based middle school. As a person with a master's degree in curriculum, I will tell you Montessori is inquiry-based, and so we will continue to be successful as we set those kids up to succeed in high school, and that Montessori really does work, and that inquiry-based does work for our little children of color, like my son, who is growing up of biracial in a single-parent household.
And if present, Javon Hardaway.
Good evening. My name is Javon Hardaway. Good evening, IPS Superintendent Dr. Alicia Johnson and IPS Board of Directors. I'm here this evening to echo what others in the community are saying. Okay, the vote on rebuilding stronger, I believe, should be delayed. First, I believe that the plan itself is not equitable. I don't believe that it was truly created with all of the community input in mind. And the communication around plan details has been hard to follow in moments for both parents, families, and educators. This plan will impact thousands of students, particularly students of color, and should really be about what matters most to them and their families. I'm also an educator, and I see the impact of leadership decisions in the classroom every single day. The decisions that leaders make have a dramatic impact on student learning. Sometimes those impacts are for the better and sometimes for the worse. And I'm here tonight because I fear that this current plan would definitely have negative consequences for students. Second, there were 3 new board members that were just elected who will begin their role in January. All of them have publicly said that they would not support this plan. And it just, honestly, it just feels like the district is rushing to make sure that this passes. And the people who live in the district voted these board members in to represent us, and ignoring the new board members is just another way to ignore the voices in the community. I understand and I know that this has been a long road and a long process, but we can't just rush things when it feels like we're ready to move on and there's still work to be done. I thank you for your time.
Kendrick Carr, Tyrell Collins, and Connie Summers is present.
Good evening, Board of Commissioners. I'm Tyrell Collins. I guess you guys are doing pretty well to get me out on a Thursday night, being November 17th, which some of you are part of Divine Nine, you see the importance of that. But I'm here in support of the plan. Also, I have a son that attends IPS CIF too. I think he's had a great experience and he's excited. And so when he's excited, my job, first and foremost, I not only have his school to educate him, but most importantly, it relies on me and put him in the best position to be successful. And so I think with this upcoming plan, that will be happening, and so I'm in support of it. Thank you.
Connie Summers, followed by Christina Johnson-Yates.
Hello, I'm Connie Summers with the Empower family. Hello and good evening. Tonight I want to share my concern with the district's plan for the buildings that will close. I continue to hear IPS indicate the $1 law does not apply to these buildings, but that simply does not square with reality. If IPS closes schools, it seems inevitable that outside operators will buy them for $1. Now, I do not necessarily think that is bad. The $1 law provides an opening for schools that need quality facilities with a vital opportunity. I'm sorry, I'm nervous. But there is a risk here if IPS moves forward and loses these buildings to low-quality operators. You should take the chance now to partner with quality schools that have been looking to expand their footprint. The priority should be students and student success. If IPS doesn't need or want to use these facilities to educate students, partner with the quality school that will use these buildings for educational purposes. Thank you for your time and consideration.
Troy Watkins, Christine Rember, and Sarah Clark if present.
Hello, my name is Christina Johnson-Yates. I wanted to come as a parent and just an observer for the last few months of what's been going on. So I would like to start by acknowledging my positionality. I am a middle-class, educated, Black, queer mother of one child. She's sitting back there. She goes to Butler Lab 55. I'm also a social worker and a PhD student in the field of urban education. My child, all things considered, has not yet needed special accommodations to make it through a school day. I mention these things because the intersectional nature of my identity informs how I see the world and often how the world sees me. The decision being made with this proposal is not easy, and I see that. Change is hard, and we're dealing with students who have varying access to characters. These are the lives of our neighbors and community members. The school board is trying to make right years of wrong done by those who have come before you, simultaneously grappling with systemic oppression, cultural nuance, and individualism is never easy. What has struck me most about this process is the racialized nature of feedback from parents regarding proposed changes. I have attended a few board meetings and smaller listening sessions where white-bodied parents have visibly and audibly huffed and puffed at any mention of equity, while Black and brown-bodied parents are worried about gentrification and protecting our children from the culture wars that surround us. No plan is going to be perfect, and there is no plan we could come up with where everyone will be satisfied. Nevertheless, I support this attempt at making things better. The reality is that a loud minority in this district does well. And it is not a coincidence that socioeconomic and racial lines can be drawn to account for those differences. But we are a district that serves a greater number of students who come from historically marginalized backgrounds that deserve intentional planning. As a parent, I understand the deep desire to do everything I can to help my child succeed. I also understand fear of the unknown, and that is what I think might be driving a lot of pushback. My hope is that we come together as a community because that is what we are. We have an opportunity to find strength in our differences, and I hope we find a way. Thank you.
Troy Watkins, Christine Rembert, and Sarah Clark. Present, Tanya Williams.
Hi, I'm Kendrick Carr. I'm a student at Shortridge. I'm a little bit nervous right now, and I'm a former CFI2 alumni. And I really believe that CFI2 is meant for kids of all races. I grew up down by Fountain Square, not the good side, but it also allowed me to be around people of all types of people. My cultural sensitivity has risen up by multiple people. I've been around my best friend. He's a white man who's been around me for 3 years now, and we've been partners in crime ever since. I've been to Costa Rica with my school. I've been just to learn about different cultures, and I took Mandarin for the whole time. So I've really learned how that affects everybody, the difference in how everybody talks, speaks, and learns. I have my own shortcomings in teaching, but that's what CFI helped me with. It allowed me. They taught me basically how to read faster, how to read better. I was on a same level as my 4th grade brother back before I started in CFI, and the other schools I went to didn't truly help me and communicated that with me. And CFI sat me down and told me where I was, then told me how we can fix it. My teacher, Mr. Katner, really focused with me. He made a specialized agenda for me, what I should do in this day, sat me down in my own corner and had me read these specialized books. I read graphic novels for 3 years just to get to where I am now as a senior in high school. And now I was in honor roll now, but I got a little senioritis. I can't deny that. But I'm starting to focus back up, remembering from Shortridge, we're all risk takers here. And the only thing I could remember that I wanted to be better at CFI2 is to have more people that look like me in the school. Being the only black kid of my class really affected me personally. And I had to think about what is different. But that personal project we had really helped me see how much I have it right now and how much we have to affect other schools. And that's what CFI did for us. It taught us how to affect other schools and other places of being. Now I thank everybody that's a part of that. So I am pro the plan. So have a good day, y'all.
Scott Bess, followed by Shauna Majors.
Good evening. Some have looked at the data of our choice schools and had arrived at the conclusion that there's an achievement gap. They're not wrong. There are significant disparities in test scores, both iLearn and NWEA, between our white students and our students of color. However, the conclusion leaves out a couple of really important things. The achievement gap is not only across the board in the entire district, it's across the board in the entire nation. The achievement gap is measured by standardized test scores, and while those test scores do give us valuable data, it's not our whole story of what our schools are doing. Principal Rembert of Parker Montessori 56, Principal Nolan Watkins of CFI 70, and myself, Sarah Clark of Butler Lab 55, are here tonight to tell you in person that we see the achievement gap and we're not okay with it. In fact, we are all three taking really deliberate steps within our respective programs and within our buildings to do something about that. So we're going to share a little bit about that this evening.
For example, we make deliberate choices about what we do in Tier 1 instruction, the instruction that is given to all students. We have specific expectations about that initial teaching, and during our professional learning communities each week with our teachers, we review those expectations and talk about the best practices. Research clearly shows that early childhood experiences and background knowledge are crucial to student achievement, and especially now with the pandemic restrictions lifted, we make deliberate choices to decrease any opportunity gap by giving our littlest ones as many outside the classroom experiences, community-based instruction, and field trips as we possibly can. We extend that, of course, to all our students in the building, but we have an unapologetic emphasis on our littles. Finally, we use all of the data we have available to make thoughtful and strategic decisions about how best to support our students on the furthest ends of any opportunity gap.
Principal Clark has admitted to you tonight that the achievement gap exists in our schools, and Principal Nolan Watkins has told you some of the things that we're doing to address it. I'm here tonight to address the perception that choice schools are not for Black or brown children. I'm going to say it to you straight out. The choice schools of IPS are for all kids. The truth is that schools these days are not simply places where kids go to get the 3 R's. Schools are community institutions that provide identity, belonging, and social and emotional learning. You've heard that directly from some of these kiddos tonight. They are places where students figure out who they are, how they relate to others, and where they fit in this world. The CFIs, Butler Labs, and Montessori schools embrace this aspect of education. It is built into each of our philosophies to help students discover themselves as global citizens. We believe this with all of our hearts, and we do our level best to help every single student in our building take the next step toward becoming productive global citizens who know not only what their unique gifts are, but also how to offer them to the world and to achieve whatever they want to. Let me be clear. This is not rhetoric from a forgotten mission or vision statement or a quote from a dusty introduction from some academic textbook. This is what we live and breathe every single day. We are committed to it for every single one of our students. We know we have work to do, and we are committed to getting that work done in partnership with our students, our parents, and our community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. Scott Best with Purdue Polytechnic High School. Thank you for the process that you went through. The issues that you guys are facing tonight have been years and years in the making, and you've been thoughtful and inclusive through the process. It's complicated. No plan is perfect. No plan is going to please everybody, but you put the thought and effort into that. For that, you should be congratulated. I would thank you specifically on behalf of the Purdue Polytechnic High School North students, the parents, staff, and the community for including our North Campus in the plan and giving us a longer-term home or a road to a home in Broad Ripple High School. From the time that was included, the morale in the building has been remarkable. People are looking at that not just as a temporary, we're here for a year and we're going to go someplace else, but as their home. And hopefully you've seen that they treated that as their home. And it's made a tremendous difference. And the neighborhood, the merchants and everybody there has been incredibly welcoming to us, knowing that this is a longer-term thing. We have people from the neighborhood and the organizations and the businesses in the school on a daily basis. The coffee shop just kicked off today in conjunction with Tinker Street, so kudos to them. We're looking forward to a partnership as the plan has a proposed middle school in the building. We have one now in our Inglewood campus with Paramount where they have a middle school, we have a high school. That works really, really well. 2 independent schools in the same building, but the pathways and the cooperation is amazing. Our students work during the school day with their students, tutoring, working with them. We're hoping that some of our tutors go on to college and come back as teachers for us. So we love the idea. Again, congratulations to you all. I know you have a long night and long days and long months and years ahead to implement the plan. I'm also very confident that you will adjust as needed. You've shown that already. Things will change, circumstances will dictate something different, but the thought you put into this so far makes me confident that the plan will come out on the back end and be well done. So thank you very much.
Tanya Williams, followed by Shauna Majors, and if present, Joseph Thomas. Tanya Williams, Shauna Majors, Joseph Thomas, present, Mafu Fuyana.
Good evening, members of the board and Superintendent Johnson. My name is Joe Thomas. I believe the board should delay the vote on rebuilding stronger. For starters, each of the 3 newly elected board candidates have said they oppose the current plan. It does not seem right that the current board might pass something that dramatically alters IPS in our city, but then leave its actual implementation to new board members who do not support the plan. I'll be honest, ever since the Rebuilding Stronger plan was rolled out earlier this fall, IPS seems to be rushing things just to get something passed. While I appreciate that IPS released a revised version, I don't think those revisions really paid attention to what community members have been asking for. To sum it up, 1, our community just elected 3 board members who don't agree with the plan, and 2, the plan has not yet been responsive to voice community needs and concerns. How could you possibly pass something when that is the current reality? Please reconsider your next move and ensure it aligns with what we have been telling you these past few weeks and months. Thank you.
Mafu Fuyana, followed by Stephen Gainey, and present, Allison Peterkin.
Good evening, members of the board and Superintendent Johnson. My name is Mafu. Now, I found myself with a glimmer of hope when I saw that IPS had released an updated version of the Rebuilding Stronger plan not too long ago. The IPS Rebuilding Stronger plan concerns me because of its emphasis on replicating models that do not serve students of color well. Families of color, in particular, have been straightforward about the options they want more of. For months, if not years, we've been pleading that the district would partner with schools that have proven results with students of color. You didn't listen before. Why would you listen now? Those partnerships didn't exist in the first iteration of the plan. They certainly do not exist in the second. And that was after you held numerous community meetings where you could hear from people like me. Do we not matter? Do our children not matter? Does the future of our city not matter? I'm here speaking tonight because I have not given up all hope. I'm probably foolish to still have hope after being given the runaround so many times. But what I can tell you is that I will never give up on the future of our children. My hope for them is everlasting and unfailing. So I do things like speak here tonight, even if I fear that my voice may be ignored. So I'm here asking you to finally listen to people you say you are here to serve. Act on behalf of the Black and Latino students that make up the majority of your enrollment. Treat us like we matter. Thank you.
Stephen Gainey, followed by Allison Peterkin, and if present, Andrea Jane.
Good evening, Dr. Johnson and Board of School Commissioners. My name is Stephen Gainey, and I'm the Dean of Operational Culture at Fairbanks Elementary on the Far East Side. I'm here today to offer my support for the Rebuilding Stronger plan. I have a unique experience. From 1971 to around 1990, all 5 of my siblings grew up in the Fairbanks community. My father was head of relocation at Fort Harrison. My mother worked at the post office, and both were in the military. My brother was a graduate of one of the first classes of John Marshall High School. He was valedictorian. I was not. But my parents were of that age where they went into the military instead of college. And the wonderful educators that we had at Fairbanks 105 nurtured him and set him on a go to a full ride scholarship to Notre Dame. By the time they got to me, it was they couldn't afford Notre Dame. So my point is that I am a product of IPS. I never thought in my 24 years in education, 21 being in Warren Township, that I would have that opportunity in this journey in my life to come back to the school and the neighborhood where once I came, where I had teachers that many of you probably know that went on to be administrators here in the district who encouraged me to go into that field of education. Someone had mentioned earlier, and I didn't include this in my notes, but I was that kid who watched on 38th Street when John Marshall High School was closed. I was that kid that saw the division in that community and the white flight that happened in the mid-'80s when students were bused to Arlington. That caused a big divide. How proud I am to say that 40 years later, my parents stayed in that neighborhood, and my mom actually just moved out of the neighborhood about 10 years ago when she needed a condo because the yard was too large. I have friends in other townships and in Hamilton, Hendricks, Johnson, and Johnson, Hendricks, Hamilton, and Hancock, who are also principals and also in the townships. And I talk to them often. And I tell them how proud I was. All 4 or 5 of my siblings were together, and 2 live in different states when Dr. Johnson gave her State of the District address. And we were watching TV during that time. And I can't tell you how proud I was to be a part of IPS. From K to 6, and now for the last 3 years. Our kids deserve exactly what other students are getting elsewhere. Thank you.
Allison Peterkin, Andrea Jane, and if present, Abby Roach.
Hello, good evening. My name is Allison Peterkin, and I'm the proud principal of Danny Webster IPS School 46, which is a neighborhood K-8 building. I became the principal of Danny Webster 5 years ago, and I fell in love with the school, the community, and the staff within days of becoming their principal. At the start of my principalship, middle school behavior was my biggest struggle. I poured a lot of time and resources into making sure the middle schoolers were supported the way that they needed to be developmentally. As I learned more about this age range, I found elements of a K-8 that did not meet their needs. My building was not designed for K-8 model. My kindergartners and first graders had to share a bathroom with our 7th and 8th graders. I had to hire with middle schoolers in mind instead of all of my students in mind. Then there was the challenges when new middle schoolers moved into our boundary. We are a neighborhood school. Students did not always want to come to us. A K-8 has to run differently than a traditional middle school, and almost all new middle schoolers struggle to acclimate in our building. Many could not find their niche or felt like their past freedoms were being taken away. I had parents tell me that our school did not prepare their children for high school, which crushed me. I kept trying to take this feedback and making our middle school the best it could be. Fast forward to now, we have a successful middle school when it comes to behavior. Our kids are happy, they feel like they belong, but what they don't have is opportunities. We have We don't have any more parent complaints about those things, but our students don't have band, they don't have choir, they don't have orchestra. We don't have the same robust sports programs that our traditional middle schools have. We tried and we failed to have foreign language and algebra. I also only have one teacher per subject, which they have no one to collaborate with. And our younger grades may only have one per grade as well, just due to the huge grade band. So with Rebuilding Stronger, I see so many opportunities. I see the ability to develop appropriate school-wide practices and goals, professional development opportunities. I see more teachers in each grade band or each grade level to be able to collaborate and better balance class size. I see my middle schoolers able to get differentiated classes and just participate in opportunities that will get them better for high school. I see less students having to change schools and more students getting a consistent education. I see more equitable practices. I will miss my middle schoolers dearly, but I also know they're going to come visit me, and they're going to be very happy. The only thing I want to lift up to the board is a lot of our families have never had to choose before. They don't know anything about the lottery. I don't know anything about the lottery because it has not been part of our world before. And I just wanted to lift up that we're going to need a lot of support when this passes. Thank you.
Andrea Jane, followed by Abby Roach, and President Latoya Taru.
Good evening. Hi, my name is Abby Roach. I'm the Regional Partnership Manager with Playworks Indiana. Playworks is a national nonprofit that partners with IPS buildings and has been for many years to help leverage play for positive outcomes. I've had the opportunity to work directly with the students in these buildings and these principals over the past few years. I've seen what makes an IPS school work, and I've seen the need for resources. Rebuilding Stronger will allow IPS to bring more resources to truly impact these students. I know there are going to be a lot of growing pains and deep feelings about some of the school closures. There are schools that I've worked with that I truly love that are being deeply affected by this, but I've also seen how thin these teachers and students are stretched for these resources. IPS cannot sustainably keep on the path they are on and grow their students and teachers under the model that we are currently on. Playworks this year has partnered with 12 IPS buildings, and over the past 10 years has partnered with over 30 of them. We believe that the increase in resources through Rebuilding Stronger will allow us to work with IPS to better improve school conditions and to continue on our shared impact to continue to grow. Thank you.
Latoya Taru, Melissa Dom, if present, and Sherry Holmes.
Good evening, Superintendent Dr. Johnson and the board. My name is Latoya Hale Tahiru. I'm an IPS parent. 2 of my children attend the online Paramount Academy through IPS. They previously attended Paramount Brookside, but are online for now due to the pandemic. My oldest attends PLA High School. I'm here tonight to explain why I do not support the Rebuilding Stronger plan. But before I explain that, I want to hand you these emails. Is it okay if I? Between all the board members and Dr. Johnson, there are over 1,000 pages of sent emails here. So as I speak tonight regarding my concerns, I know that I do not stand alone. I was also one of the 19 people who signed a letter that was sent to you in early October. That letter detailed our concerns as well as how we have, for nearly 2 years, asked IPS to replicate school models that show evidence of working for Black and brown students. So tonight, I am speaking my truth, but I know many other parents, teachers, and community members have told you something similar to what I will, which is that the schools we choose to grow under this plan matter. And I cannot support the plan unless it includes growing data-proven models that are closing the opportunity gap. You heard this before, but I need to say it again. Paramount has more Black students passing both sections of the state assessment than all IPS direct run schools combined. I realize your plan mentions a potential partnership now, but it needs to be something more concrete. As both an IPS mom and a Paramount mom, I want to share my experience with you.
When I first heard the word replication several years ago, I didn't fully know what it meant. But I learned quickly, and I started touring schools that were closing the opportunity gap with my youngest two children in mind. When I first toured Paramount Brookside, I was blown away, not only because of the planetarium or the farm, but witnessing how the children were learning. I immediately knew that that is where I wanted my kids to be. I called one day and they had an opening for both of my babies. I felt so blessed to know that my youngest babies were going to get a great education. I saw my oldest daughter struggle for years jumping from IPS school to IPS school trying to find the right fit. And as a senior, I still see the way she struggles in certain academic areas. I didn't want that for her, and I don't want it for my younger two children to have the same struggles. I want my children to break the cycle, break generational poverty. Education is a big piece of that, and not only for my children, but for all IPS children. I do see the changes you have made, and my words tonight are not to say your plan is all bad, but I do believe which schools and programs in this district offers through this plan is the most important part of it. I also believe that it's not too late to revise your plan. Changes have been made just this week, which do not give parents like myself a lot of time to review or consider the implication of those changes before the vote tonight. I hope the future of you will be sure to listen to all voices are asking for change, and I hope you'll give the community time to respond to the changes you do make. More than anything, I hope that you'll put kids first in this plan and grow schools like Paramount that close the opportunity gap. Change is necessary, and yes, we need change now, but we need the right changes to be made. Thank you.
Thank you.
Melissa Dom, followed by Sherry Holmes, and if present, Kimberly Graham.
My name is Melissa Dom. Good evening, Superintendent Johnson and IPS board members.
Ms. Dam, if you could step up to the microphone a little bit more.
How about that?
Perfect, thank you.
All right. So anyhow, I'm Melissa Dom. Good evening, Superintendent Dr. Johnson and IPS board members. I'm a grandparent of 5 IPS students ranging from kindergarten to 4th grade. I'm the legal guardian for 3 of them, and I'm involved in all of their education. To be honest, I feel like I got a better education, and my children got a better education than my grandchildren are getting, and that is why I'm here. I'm here because I have joined other grandparents, teachers, and guardians who have sent you a letter asking that the vote on Rebuilding Stronger be delayed until changes are made. I am here because I have spoken at the last 2 board meetings to voice my concerns, which I have heard through our community regarding the choice to replicate the CFI schools. These schools have a high opportunity gap. I'm here because I think it is important that we grow the schools that are closing the opportunity gap. Partnering with Paramount would mean not only my grandchildren, but hundreds of IPS children would get a better education. I know this plan has a lot of good ideas, but the most important part are the schools you're offering that will shape our kids' futures. From my view, this plan bases which schools you replicate based on demand. The schools that have no seats and a wait list, but who is on that wait list? Is it the neighborhood kids? Does that wait list mirror the population of IPS schools as a whole? And does that wait list mean that to the district that those schools are better at closing the opportunity gap? I've asked these questions and I still don't have an answer. The schools we grow have to be based on the ones that work, the ones that are reaching kids and providing them equitable opportunities to succeed. The schools we grow must be proven. I don't see that in the plan, and so I'll keep speaking up until this plan changes. Please listen to me and other parents and guardians who have been advocating for years to grow schools that work for their children of color. Do not move forward with this plan until more data-proven models like Paramount are built into the plan. Thank you.
Sherry Holmes, followed by Kimberly Graham, and if present, Alma Estrada.
Good evening, Superintendent Dr. Johnson and IPS Board of School Commissioners. My name is Sherry Holmes, and I am a proud IPS parent. My 2 children attend School 87. I have been pleased with their experience at 87. I am definitely feeling concerned and conflicted about having my son move to a new middle school, which will be required because of the shifts being made with Rebuilding Stronger. This would be an adjustment for him, being at a new school environment and not being at the same school as his little sister. To be honest, this change with 87 is not the reason why I'm here tonight. What did motivate me to be here is the concerns I have of the school models being replicated, and the fact that parents like me have been advocating for a particular model that has been treated as an afterthought in the plan you'll vote on tonight. Even before this planning process started, many parents like me stood at this podium and made it clear for the request for IPS to grow models that are data proven to close opportunity gaps for children who look like mine. I've lost count how many times I've spoken in this room or how many emails I've sent. What I do know is that it wasn't just me. Many parents, Black and brown families from across the district showed up, held meetings with school board members, sent hundreds of emails, all asking for IPS to grow Paramount and one of the best schools in our state for Black and brown student achievement. Unfortunately, all of our voices only led to Paramount being mentioned as a model IPS should consider partnering with. So many changes were made to buildings and programs, and no one from IPS met with Paramount until the plan was drafted. I am happy to see Paramount mentioned now, but still, that's crazy. What's even crazier is the fact this plan grows one model that has one of the largest opportunity gaps in the entire state, according to the state data. We've heard IPS say all school has gaps, but to say that and ignore the fact CFI schools have among the worst radical testing gaps in Indiana is so disappointing. I don't feel heard. We don't feel heard. But most importantly, the plan doesn't do right by our babies. So I ask, is this plan really ready to be voted on? This is about all of our children. Don't rush stuff like this when it comes to the future of our babies. I don't feel like the plan is ready. As a parent, I want for my kids to have what I didn't have. I want the best for them, which is to nourish them through education and feed them what they need to be successful. When you vote tonight, please ask yourself, does this plan do that? Is this the plan that will build future presidents, scientists, and doctors? My answer is no to that question. So why are we rushing rather than taking the time to get this right? Thank you for listening to me.
Kimberly Graham, Alma Estrada, and Anikia Mitchell is present.
Good evening, Superintendent Johnson and Board Commissioners. I am here to speak on behalf of the parents who were unable to be here and do not agree with this plan. Tonight, you have to make a very important decision that will impact over 31,000 students years to come. As you prepare to vote, I ask you to consider the legacy you want to leave behind. Will you leave a legacy of fairness for all students? Or will you leave a legacy be on the caters to certain populations of the kids? I have come before you meeting after meeting, pleading with you to be equitable. I have given you the data. I've shared the thoughts from parents, and I've offered to help. I've done all that I can do. Your vote tonight should not be to funnel children to the CFI schools when the data shows the model does not work for Black and brown children. Your vote should be the one that promotes models that are scientifically proven to work. Models like Paramount, who have some of the highest scores for students of color in the entire state of Indiana. Your vote should be about what is best for the students, not what's convenient for you and the administration. I come before you with a heavy heart because I fear you will make the wrong decision. I've done all I can do, as far as presenting you. I feel good about empowered families and the advocacy we have been doing for all students. I will be able to rest peacefully knowing my work these last several months were focused on equity and progress. Will you be able to say the same? Kim Graham, thank you.
Alma Estrada, Anikia Mitchell, and if present, Maya Jackson.
Good evening, Superintendent Johnson, President Hawkins, and all board members, and everybody that came out tonight. The reason that I'm here tonight is because if you see, look around, there's no Hispanics. There's only 3 of us today, maybe 4, I'm not sure. This will probably not resonate with everybody here, but please vote no. This plan ignores the Latino community, the Hispanic community, the Black community. I want you to help me change the face of my community to the point where when I say Jose or Juan, you don't see a construction worker. I want them to have education. We're not just cash flow. We can be assets to the community. And I thank you, and it's an honor for me to talk to you guys directly. And like she said, with a heavy heart, and this is something that is very important to me because this is not just for me. I'm already 40, but this is the next generation, and I want my community to grow and empower. Indianapolis has given me a lot, and this is how I'm paying back. Thank you for your time.
Anikia Mitchell, followed by Maya Jackson, and if present, Larisha Island. Present, Ronald Swan, and Ana Delgado.
Good evening, Board of Commissioners, Superintendent Jonathan, IPS leadership team, and those in the audience. I am Ronald Swan, President of the Indianapolis Education Association. I'm speaking on behalf of IEA, the collective bargaining unit for the teachers in IPS. I'm speaking on the RBS initiative. I was part of the RBS committee that reviewed data and trends in the IPS district. I attended community meetings and in-person meetings and virtually. I, like many teachers, staff, stakeholders, awaited the public release of the document, Rebuilding Stronger, our commitment to all students. The RBS draft had 8 components, which created a firestorm reaction and comments from stakeholders. Through the various ways to give feedback on the draft plan, the IPS leadership team listened, provided updates on the draft plan that impact staff and students. I thank you for that. Also, thank you for considering the IEA stand on the RBS. Yet, IEA is steadfast against closing schools, coming new and innovative charter school sites. Also, the program shift at James Whitman Riley School 43 should not displace students and teachers. As you, the Board of Commissioners, draft on the RBS plan later this evening, I end with a paraphrase from the late radio commentator Paul Harvey. What is the rest of the story on the implementation of the RBS? Where IPS thrive. Again, I thank you for listening and changing aspects of the RBS draft. We'll move on down the road to see what happens in the long run. Thank you.
Larisha Island, followed by Ana Delgado. If present, Irma Perdomo.
Good evening, IPS Superintendent Dr. Alicia Johnson and IPS Board of Directors. I am here this evening to echo what others in the community are saying. The voting on rebuilding stronger should be delayed. First, the plan itself is not equitable. I do not plan that it was created with true community input in mind with this communication around this plan. Details have been hard to follow for parents, family, and educators. This plan, which will impact thousands of students, especially students of color, should really be about what matters to them and their families the most. I see the impact leadership's decision in the classroom every day. The decisions the leaders make have dramatic impacts on students' learning, sometimes for the better, sometimes for the worse. I fear this current plan would definitely have negative consequences for students. I appreciate your time and your efforts, so thank you for having me.
And if present, Justin Oldmiller.
Hello. Good evening, Superintendent and members of the board. I am here on behalf of my mother because she is feeling ill. My name is Ana Delgado, and I have been here on many occasions in the past. I am an IPS mom, and I have learned how to advocate for my kids' education these past few years. After seeing all the strains in our education system as my older daughters made it through high school and now in college, I think back and reflect on those teachers that really made a positive impact to get them college ready. The teachers that went above and beyond to make sure that the language was not a barrier and that made my eldest daughters feel empowered to continue their education through college. As an immigrant mom, watching my daughters in college is a fulfilled dream, not knowing the language and many times being left out of the communication of what is happening in their schools or depending on my own daughters to translate. Yet things worked out for them. As I looked at the stats of our ELL kids on grade level, it is very concerning. Not everyone can be so lucky to have those amazing bilingual teachers and staff that go above and beyond for each individual student, especially since our population has gotten so big. This is why the way we serve our ELL population has to evolve, and this is why language justice policy is so important. I thank you for taking action and drafting a policy. I was able to look at the draft and ask that you please take the time to make it a good quality policy with community input that will lead into a plan of implementation. Our students deserve only the best. This is why I also wanted to take the time to ask you to please reconsider the Rebuilding Stronger plan and allow for there to be more data-driven decisions when it comes to replication. Allow for there to be a plan around how we are going to serve those kids that are not on grade level. Our kids of color deserve it, and our immigrant families deserve to feel accomplished when their students graduate. Thank you.
Can you please state your name for the record?
Oh, Genesis Salinas.
You. Irma Perdomo, Justin Oldmiller, and Elizabeth Centenian. Sorry.
Good evening. Dr. Johnson and members of the board, my name is Justin Oldmiller, and I have the tremendous privilege of standing alongside so many heroic parents as the executive director of Stand for Children. This is my first time addressing this board in many years. Our organization exists for the sole purpose of supporting parents, especially guardians who have historically been underserved in our K-12 public school system. When I started my role here nearly a decade ago, I had no true idea what it meant to help parents speak up and be heard in a system that they simply do not trust. What I came to learn from parents like Eugenia Murray, Ashley Thomas, Latoya Tahiru, Shawanda Tyson, and so many more is that the best role that we can play is to help them remove barriers and for them to take the microphone and for me to get the hell out of the way. So I've done that. What I'm here, though, today is to be an ally for these parents. An ally for parents who have spoken at countless meetings, sent thousands of emails, and held numerous meetings with members of this board. Black and brown parents who have consistently said for 2 years that they want to grow schools that work for their children. Their advocacy supported board goals that this body passed that expressly called for a strategy to close opportunity gaps. Parents toured schools. They shared data with IPS leaders about models to be replicated. They went out and got 1,000 signatures in support of the replication recommendations. The parents showed up again, meeting after meeting after meeting. They sent more emails, thousands of emails. You all know how many emails they sent. Despite this, IPS leaders did not begin engaging Paramount until after this plan was drafted, leaving few to no options for a true partnership to take shape. What's worse, the plan relies on the replication of a model that has an opportunity gap that is among the worst in the state of Indiana. In the end, the changes that have been made to the plan indicate that people are being listened to. The question that I asked tonight is what folks in the community have been listened to. Stand for Children cannot support this plan. And I say that with a heavy heart because this organization that I'm blessed to be part of has been there at every turn over the last decade to support major changes in IPS. We do appreciate the efforts that were made in the last several days to include language that includes the desire to potentially partner with Paramount. And I have hope. In the day we've had that said by a number of parents tonight, there is hope. I have hope because of the parents that have spoken before me. I have hope because of the leaders in front of me as well. Hope is not the foundation of advocacy, the belief that things can change, things will change. We do believe that, and we're going to keep working hard to do that. We appreciate your leadership, but we just don't support the plan as drafted today. Thank you.
Elizabeth Santillan, followed by Rachel Snow, and President Jose Orellana, sorry. Betty Rangel.
My name is Rachel Snow. I went to CFI from kindergarten to 8th grade, and I'm currently the guest art teacher at school 2. I'm here to clear some things up tonight. I've heard the rumors that CFI is for the rich, straight, and white. As someone who is not rich, straight, or white, I'm here to tell you that it's false. I've worked at a preschool in Fishers for 2 years, where I witnessed sparks of diversity snuffed out in order to fit into a homogeneous society. I've seen all walks of life come in and out of CFI and be accepted with open arms. So you can imagine my delight when I walked back into sub at the school and saw that the same diversity and acceptance that I grew up with has only multiplied since I left. My first day in the art classroom, I watched 2 small black girls were telling their white classmate about the different beads and braids in their hair and how long it took mommy to finish them. Only a few class periods later, some of the older kids were excited to introduce to me their gender fluid friend and make sure that I knew to respect their pronouns. It reminded me of the conversations I had with my classmates growing up, where we learned about the importance of inclusion and culture, and we welcomed different opinions and points of view. Preparing students for high school and further academia is something that any teacher can do. The teachers at CFI go 10 steps beyond that. Teachers at CFI provide kids with a safe space to think freely, ask questions, be their truest self, and go against the status quo. For 9 years, I was encouraged to be bold and speak out, to stand up for what I believe in, and also give my peers the opportunity to do the same, even if we were standing for 2 different reasons. Everyone has a place and a voice in the CFI community. The passionate sparks I felt inside were not snuffed out in order to keep me in line. They were ignited into bonfires I still feel today. CFI provides kids with life skills. We learn things like people in the room around you might come up with a different answer to the very same question. It's about problem solving and figuring out how to thrive together in a society where no two people think, look, or act the same. Because diversity is not something that we have to strive for at CFI. Diversity is the norm.
Jose Orlana, followed by Eddie Rangel, and if present, Andrew Coker.
Buenas noches, Superintendente Johnson, estimados miembros de la Junta de IPS. Gracias por su tiempo esta noche. Buenas noches, mi nombre es José. Un honor poder dirigirme directamente a ustedes. Casi un tercio de los estudiantes que existen en las escuelas de IPS son latinos o hispanos. Es un número, solo crecerá en los próximos años en función de hacia dónde se dirige nuestra ciudad. La fortaleza y diversidad de la comunidad latina es un activo importante para nuestra ciudad y también podría ser activa para el distrito. Muchas gracias.
I want to translate for him. I feel that IPS Rebuilding a Stronger plan largely ignores Latino students and families. I see very little that makes me feel valued as a Latino parent or as a language justice. Where is the effort to ensure parents who speak Spanish first can access schools and advocates for children? Where are the partnerships with school models that are proven to be efficient to serving Latino students and English language learners? He did mention about the third of the students in the IPS are Hispanics, and that's why he's here to support the charter schools and to please not vote for the Rebuilding Stronger plan. Thank you so much for your time.
Eddie Rangel, followed by Andrew Coker, and if present, Sandy Ryberg.
Good evening, Superintendent Dr. Johnson and Commissioners. My name is Eddie Rangel, and I am honored to serve as the Executive Director of Adelante Schools, a proud Innovation Network Restart partner at Emidonin Elementary and Middle School. And it's good to be with you all again. I want to state that this comment is not intended for the larger Rebuilding Stronger plan resolution, but rather a commitment to our Adelante Schools' core value of solidarity. The first words of our organizational mission are, quote, "We unite in solidarity with our families and community." And those have been the first words of our mission since 2019, when we first came humbly to the Board of Commissioners to explore a partnership at Emidonin. Tonight, it's those same words that bring me here. Solidarity requires us to do hard things, as you all know very well. And we recognize that working in lockstep with our community to provide the worthy opportunities our students deserve is one of the necessary things we must do in the best interest of our students. This is why I'm here tonight, to publicly express that Adelante Schools is working shoulder to shoulder with the University Heights Neighborhood Association and the University of Indianapolis to ensure that a community near and dear to our students and our hearts, University Heights, is ensured an excellent and equitable educational option at the Raymond Brandis School 65 facility. Adelante Schools will leverage all available pathways to serve our community this way, including purchasing the building. Thank you for your time this evening, and in the spirit of our namesake, Adelante, in translation, onward. Thank you.
Andrew Coker, followed by Sandy Ryberg, and if present, Margaret Guyana Flynn.
Good evening. My name is Andy Coker, and I serve as the Vice President for Corporate and Community Partnerships at the University of Indianapolis. The university proudly serves as an anchor institution for our near South Side Indianapolis community. Through our School of Education, we are interested in keeping our neighborhood elementary school, Raymond F. Brandis School Number 65, open and vibrant through a partnership with Adelante Schools. Our outstanding faculty and teacher education can co-create with Adelante an innovative curriculum that will best prepare students to succeed in their middle and upper grades and ultimately be college prepared. I've attended meetings with our University Heights Neighborhood Association, and they share our interest in providing excellent educational opportunities at School 65. In collaboration with Adelante, UND will provide faculty experience in pre-service teacher preparation, novice teacher preparation, social emotional learning, and special education. In addition, social services, mental health counseling, and psychological services could be administered as resources provided by faculty and highly trained students as part of their internship requirements. This is an excellent opportunity for a university educational program and a promising elementary school to work together and create a successful school model that will support our students and community. Thank you for allowing me to share these comments, and I hope it impacts a favorable decision. Have a great evening.
Sandy Ryberg, followed by Margaret Guyan Flynn, and if present, John Hesser.
Members of the board, my name is Margaret Galena Flynn. I'm a teacher at Harshman Middle School. Thank you for modifying Rebuilding Stronger to create a fully public, high-ability, and dual immersion language middle school at Harshman, the longest-running public school in IPS. Dual immersion is a gift and a talent if you're able to speak 2 languages, and it's a great match to share space with the district's high-ability programming. Now, through our partnership with Theodore Potter's Spanish Immersion School 74, IPS will have a district-run K-8 dual language program, making us more competitive with Lawrence Township and surrounding communities. The families and community of Theodore Potter and Harshman have been very loud in their desire to create this program, and you've listened. Thank you for being so responsive to the desires and needs of the community. It has been a great example of the power of local democracy and demonstrates the way that Indianapolis Public Schools is working to equitably meet the needs of all students as we move into the future. At Harshman Middle School, we are proud to be public, and we support Rebuilding Stronger. Thank you.
John Hesser, followed by Charles Jewell, and if present, Cadence Powell.
I'm John Hesser. I'm a middle school math teacher at Harshman Middle School. A few months ago, I was here and I was real upset. It was really my feelings about the rollout of Rebuilding Stronger. I had a lot of frustrations. And then I remembered that how proud I am to be in a public school district in which we have these avenues for community feedback and true partnerships. And while I certainly felt justified at the time in my frustrations, I've been really pleased throughout this process to see the process of community feedback and how it's been folded in at different points, particularly as it relates, obviously, as a Harshman educator, to the voices heard from our Harshman families, to our former Harshman students who have advocated. It means a lot to me because it's why I teach in a public school district. It's why I believe in traditional public schools, because of how we can partner with our communities to build something stronger. And I really am appreciative as a Harshman teacher, and there's never going to be a plan that pleases everyone, and there are still pieces of the plan that I'm like, oh. But I'm really grateful for where this plan has come and how it's engaged the community and how the feedback has been listened to. And this plan is better also because of you as community board members and as school board members, making sure that those community voices were heard. And I'm deeply appreciative of that. And the families that I worked with are deeply appreciative of that. So thank you so much, and I hope that you'll vote yes.
Charles Jewell, followed by Cadence Powell, and if present, Zaria Perry.
Hello, my name is Chuck Jewell.
I'm a product of IPS. Currently, I'm at Arsenal Tech High School as a consultant and assistant coach in wrestling. I actually came here, I guess I was supposed to talk about athletics, but just listen to everybody in here as far as the entire program. I've seen a lot. I've been coaching for over 30 years. I've been through about 5 superintendents. So I've seen a lot of things that could have happened, should have happened, and didn't happen. So I probably haven't done the research that everybody's doing, but I have been keeping up with things. As far as this administration and as far as what's going on, I've been around a lot of kids most of my life, and the one thing that I can say is that care goes a long way. And to me, this administration, the time and effort they've put in to try to make changes is good. So my way to give back to the community and the kids was I just used wrestling as a vehicle. So, I can be a mentor and so forth to all the kids. So I'm probably getting offline a little bit. Darren was telling me that it was for the realignment of the middle schools. And I'm for that. It's 6 through 8. For one thing, it's a whole thing with the age group is just right for everybody. As far as the kids and coaches in the high school level, they're able to communicate better with middle schools and keep the flow and prospects coming and understanding that what has to be done on another level. But as far as everything else, I think that the kids are pretty good. Tech is a really diverse school. I mean, there are all types in there, and the kids get along. I haven't, everybody has some problems, but I haven't seen many problems at all. And I think that we're on the right track as far as this administration is concerned. So then again, so I'm gonna keep it short. I was supposed to be here for athletics, and I agree with the alignment in the middle school. Thank you.
Cadence Powell, followed by Zaria Perry, and President Phil Schultz.
Excuse my nervousness today. Good afternoon, IPS School Board. My name is Zaria Perry. I am Edison School of the Arts School 47 representative. I'm in the 8th grade. Also, I'm the president of the student body. I have come here today to talk about the Rebuilding Stronger process and how this will allow children to have the opportunity to go to schools in IPS district that are normally full. I think that Edison is such a great school. I have been there since kindergarten. Honestly, there's nothing I can say negative about the school. I love the school so much that I'm scared to leave for 9th grade because they're family to me. Edison is an arts integrated. Edison is an arts integrated and creative school. Every season we come together to celebrate the students, staff, and people in our community. Why I love Edison so much is because I found things that I could do at Edison that I can do normally that I couldn't do at other schools. Edison offers so much to the community. In just 2 weeks, our goal was to raise 1,000 cans, but we surpassed our goal, and now our goal is 2,000 cans. It is very hard to get into Edison because it's such a great school. I'm grateful that there will be another school like Edison for kids to go to. I'm excited for the kids at School 43 that will be able to experience the School of the Arts just like Edison. At School 43, I have 4 friends that go there. I'm excited for them to have the same experience I am having. Without Edison, I don't think that I would be where I am today. And I don't think I would be able to pursue my dream for music and being in the athletic field. Edison has helped shape me into the person I am today. At Edison, I have learned how to play 7 different instruments: the violin, viola, tenor saxophone, alto saxophone, recorder, the ukulele, and even the timpani. Being at Edison has made it so
I am confident enough to get up here and talk to you all today and even go out and perform for other people. Thank you.
Thank you.
Cadence Powell, followed by Phil Schultz, and President Megan Lauman.
Hi there. Good evening, Commissioners, President Hawkins, Superintendent Johnson. My name is Phil Schultz, and I'm the very proud principal of Northwest Middle School, home of the Space Pioneers on the far west side of Indianapolis. As you know, or as you might remember, my last time here was in December of 2019, right before shutting down for COVID, where I had the opportunity to brag a lot about the success and achievements of Northwest. So I want to take just a moment to brag that last year about this time, we took the middle of the year NWEA, where our students scored highest in the district in reading growth scores. We also scored third in the district for our math growth scores among our students. Now, it's important to recognize the fact that near 50% of our students speak a language other than English at home. Near 50%. 38% of our students take an ESL class. 14% of our students are levels 1 or 2, pretty much meaning they are brand spanking new to our country. And we're achieving these results, these growth scores, some fantastic teaching going on, fantastic teachers, but we do it through a combination of Tier 1 instructional strategies. We look at our data all the time. We are testing our students and assessing them to make sure that they are mastering our standards. We have a strong focus on SEL. The social emotional learning within our school is probably the focus of our, or the attributes of our decreased suspension rate over the last 5 years. We have reset rooms. We believe in the opportunity to grow children, both social or in all three areas of social, emotional, and academic growth of our students. Tonight, I've heard a lot of concerns. I'm an IPS parent. My daughter went to 91. I've been in IPS for 17 years. I was part of TC Howe closing. I was part of Broad Ripple closing. If you might not remember, I was the last principal of Broad Ripple before being given this opportunity. And I get the feelings of our parents. I understand that for my current parents, RBS really doesn't matter. My students are impacted by it, but those 5th and 6th grade parents very much are. And I'm committed to attending the parent meetings in my zone so I can meet the parents and tell them about Northwest. The growth in Northwest to become a 6, 7, 8 middle school has been one of my dreams for 4 years. As we continue to grow at Northwest, our students who are behind, we're closing that gap each year. Every testing cycle we see, we are closing the gap as our students continue to learn. So it's with great support that I come here to ask you to please make sure or vote yes on this program, this RBS. Thank you.
Megan Lauman, followed by Stephanie Hickman, and if present, Anthony Wiley.
Good evening. My name is Megan Lauman, and thank you for the opportunity to speak this evening. I am the parent of 2 super school students. I am here to express my concern over the lack of communication regarding the planned closure of Super School and the merger of 114 into the building. The communication regarding this transition has been very frustrating. We only found out about the plans for our school by going to the website after the first Rebuilding Stronger presentation in September. Our first parent meeting was subsequently the next day, giving us less than 24 hours to prepare to attend a meeting regarding the future of our school. The next meeting was held less than a week later. Translators were not provided for our very large Hispanic population for the district, therefore leaving our staff to translate. I specifically asked at the meeting if we were going to have the opportunity to meet with the proposed administration. I was told that was to be determined. We heard nothing else. Then on November 10th, we got an email and a phone call that we would have the opportunity for a meet and greet scheduled for November 14th during regular business hours. I am a professional. I have clients that I have to see. I was unable to attend because I am unable to readjust my schedule that quickly on such a short notice. Also, scheduling the meeting prior to the board vote tonight and before holiday breaks was poor timing. This has just increased the stress level for everyone involved. As the parent of a special education student, it is crucial that I play an active role in his education. We specifically chose the super school after 2 IPS schools failed to provide him the accommodations and services that he needed to be a successful student in kindergarten. My son has thrived at the super school, both academically and emotionally. He is surrounded by an entire team of teachers, support staff, and administrators that know his past but are hopeful of his future. With this closure, my son is losing his entire educational support system. I am greatly concerned about IPS's ability to support him successfully, as the track record is not good. As a mental health professional, I'm also very concerned about the lack of forethought into the trauma that a large population of students may experience with these changes, especially those students accessing special education services. The disruption of the safety net surrounding so many of these children has potentially life-altering consequences. I have yet to see any trauma-informed practices or plans proposed to address these issues. As a concerned parent, I'm very much not in support of the current plan. Had this situation been better communicated, I know myself and other parents could have been great advocates. The current situation has resulted in us feeling disrespected and disregarded as crucial players to making schools successful. I am hopeful for the future that plans going forward will be better communicated and that all parents will have the opportunity to provide input. I respectfully request that this vote will be delayed so that these and many other issues, especially district-wide special education plans, can be fully addressed. Thank you.
Stephanie Hickman, followed by Anthony Wiley, and if present, Malia Vanneman.
Good evening. My name is Stephanie Hickman, and I've served on the board of Super School for 4.5 years. I'm not officially representing the board as a whole tonight. I'm here as a former parent of 3 Super School kids, an active community member, and a Fountain Square neighborhood resident. Last time I was here, I was asking you to make us an innovation school, so thanks. I'm sympathetic to how hard it is to lead and enact change. I'm not here tonight unreasonably thinking we know everything that the IPS team has had to think about in this decision-making process. I'm here tonight to give a voice to those from the super school community who have not had a voice and are hurting because of how this process has played out. On September 7th, when the innovation team met with our board chair and our head of school, we were blindsided. That was the day we learned we would not be recommended for renewal and that decision would play out within the Rebuilding Stronger plan. According to the official innovation renewal process, during its 5th year of operation, an innovation school goes through the renewal process. Knowing this, our board chair reached out multiple times before our 5th school year began to find out when the process would begin. When a meeting was finally put on the calendar in September, it was the meeting where we were told the plan to not recommend renewal and the plans for the merger. According to the IPS Innovation Support Center, during the review, the team visits classrooms, talks with parents, students, teachers, community partners, school leaders, and current board members of the Innovation School. The team engages in a facilitated and consistent process for identifying trends in the data collected during the visit while incorporating data on the school's performance over time. The facilitation protocol requires members to triangulate their data through discussion and evidence review. This never happened for us. The email with the innovation team scheduling the meeting didn't even include our board chair and stated, "You might want to see if he can attend, though it's not required." They asked our head of school not to share the news with anyone. Remember, super school employees are not IPS employees, that Brian Dickey would come to share the news with the staff. We were told they were going to include our non-renewal within the larger picture of Rebuilding Stronger so that our energy wouldn't be wasted in the process. And these are my words, but the sentiment is that we wouldn't be embarrassed by our data being on display. And I want to be clear tonight, we're not embarrassed at what's happening at Super School. From our perspective, and I know this is only one perspective, the timing of every move by the innovation team has felt calculated to ensure we didn't have time to act or fight back against the decision. Because of how this process has played out, we have been handicapped in our ability to care well for our community through this traumatic experience. I can imagine what it would have been like to have, oh, I don't think my timer started. Ooh. I can imagine that what it might have been to have the process go the way it was officially meant to go. Our community would have been aware that we were in the process. They would have been aware that there were 2 possible outcomes. They would have had time to prepare for a decision of non-renewal. It would have been painful either way if you'd not granted the renewal, but at least there would have been a process for people to go through where they had a voice. Our community is hurting. We've made 33 referrals to Midtown and at least 10 suicide assessments already. We wouldn't normally have that in an entire year. Our teachers and counselors are hearing comments over and over like, you're leaving us, you're getting fired anyway, why do we need to listen to you? The IPS innovation team has undermined the authority of our current leadership by sending a robocall without our permission and holding an off-site meet and greet with the proposed new principal of the merged school. We really want to continue work for the remainder of our time. We want to finish strong, but it's a challenge under these conditions. And in all of this, I haven't even mentioned the total lack of parental and community involvement in the decision to merge the schools, which is actually a takeover, it's not a merger. Our community has had no voice. I want IPS to be a strong, healthy place for students. We are on the same team, but the IPS innovation team has not treated us as team members. I'm really struggling to understand how this has been okay, why this is okay. And it makes it hard to trust IPS. We didn't get a voice. You didn't get a chance to hear a complete narrative. Our students, our families, our teachers, they never got a chance to speak about the astonishing things that have happened within our walls and within our kids over the last 4 years. As a board with oversight of this team, I believe you deserve a fuller picture. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anthony Wiley, followed by Malia Vanneman, and if present, Megan Veet.
Good evening. My name is Anthony Wiley. I am a parent of IPS students. I have 3 children that goes to school 56. I have the ages of 5 and I have ages of 7. I've heard a lot about kickbacks and pushbacks of the decisions that you need to make. It comes down to me, in my opinion, as it is, that it's up to the teachers. The plan is going to be good wherever you go. It is going to be on the responsibilities of the teachers to go and be accountable for the actions in the directions that you're trying to push forward. The young lady who included all inclusion was correct. You have a diverse area of education coming forth now. I'm old enough to have been around in Indianapolis for all the changes that you've made from 1963 on up, as the gentleman said about Crispus Attucks, Washington, Shortridge. You know, it's going to be pushbacks and everything on there, but to go forward on the future. So all I'm saying is I'm okay with the plan as long as you hold accountable the teachers that are going to be changing my children, the teachers that is going to be trying to educate and help the Latino division to be able to speak English, the teachers that are going to there. There's a lot of teachers out there that doesn't care because they will push them on in, push them to the side and say, go ahead and let them go and pass on to the next grade instead of taking into the education of the environment that they come from. So the young lady said that we wasn't included. They haven't been able to reach out to her. A lot of the parents have known, we just didn't have the opportunity to go and do it. I've been one of the blessed ones to be able to go and listen to your plans and go and see what the directions that it's trying to go for my children. I can't speak for everybody else. I can only speak for what I need for my children to succeed in life. And one of the ladies said that with the closing of it, it's taken away from the community, taken away from historic. Historic is anything that you go in a place on. Historic is when you got the first black president that became of the United States. That's historic. A building is just going to be a building no matter where you're at. But the education and the plan that you have for our children is the most important thing that you can do. And we will, as parents and everything else, to come out and support. But if we don't come and do the supporting, then it is going to fall to the wayside because we will hold you accountable for what you're saying here now and today, because our vote matters. And the gentleman that said that, well, the 3 candidates that are coming into your school board, that's just like the presidential thing. Well, they're coming into a plan that was already put in place. If they see it not working, then they fight to go and get it changed. But to go right now, you come in and go and include it in there and try to see if it can work and educate your children. Thank you.
Malia Vanneman, followed by Megan Veet, and if present, Chrissy Smith.
Good evening. My name is Malia Vanneman. My two children, Kellen and Jackson, started in kindergarten and are now in 5th grade at IPS 74 Theodore Potter Spanish Immersion School. I'm here to speak in support of passing the Rebuilding Stronger plan. I support the effort of IPS to implement more parity and improve student experience and opportunities across schools and grade levels, stabilize student population in the event of housing changes, and make the best use of resources and facilities. I think we can all agree that these are important and necessary goals, although we may not all agree on the best way to achieve them. Our school is 60% Hispanic. My family chose this diverse public school with intention. We are proud to be public. The initial version of the plan only offered a charter program to continue Spanish immersion in middle school. Over 300 people came together and stood up for public education. The update issued on November 14th will keep Harshman Middle School public and expand the IPS-run dual language immersion program through 8th grade. I want to take this opportunity to publicly thank IPS and the board members for listening to those of us who advocated for this alternative and for investing in the demonstrated dedication and innovation of the faculty and staff at Harshman. Change is hard and creates uncertainty and anxiety, and a broad plan affecting the entire district isn't likely to get support from everyone. We all will view the options through our own perspective and experience and desire. We may see our disappointment rather than the opportunities and potential. Clearly, there are families who still don't support aspects of the plan. It's not my place to speak for them or try to convince them. We all want what we believe is the best for our kids and for our families. I would encourage the IPS and the board to continue listening to parents and guardians, to hear the expertise of their own faculty and staff who are in these schools every day, and to recognize the importance of transparency in planning and implementing change. I would also encourage parents who have taken this opportunity to engage in the process to stay engaged. It matters. This plan isn't perfect. There is no plan that is going to make everyone happy and where everyone gets what they want. But I do think that this plan can make progress in addressing inequities and put in place a framework to work toward the goals that will benefit as many students and families as possible. Thank you.
Megan Beat of Vites, followed by Chrissy Smith, and if present, Rosalind Jackson.
Hello. Good evening. My name is Megan Vite. I'm the head of school for Super School 19. On September 7th, without any clue the news was coming, I was made aware by the innovation team that they would not be recommending us for renewal. This meant that we would not be given the chance to go through the renewal process as outlined in the accountability section of the Innovation Support Center. I'm coming to you tonight to share some things that I've not had the opportunity to share since we were not given a chance to go through the normal process. When we met with Jamie and Sharena from the innovation team on September 7th, they shared the whys behind their decision. One point concerned the high number of changes in leadership. Our founding head of school, who was in his first year as a principal when he led the charge to become innovation, chose to leave after realizing that the job was very different from a normal position of a principal, and he no longer felt aligned to be in that position. Our second leader had no other choice than to move to another state for family reasons. I was hired from within as the head of school in November of 2021. When you look more closely into the situations of each change, you will see that IPS actually made the first hire. The second left the state for family reasons, and I was planning on having a long tenure here. Another point was about our academic data. While it is true that we have some non-impressive numbers in some areas, there's a lot more data that is not highlighted. Overall, it is quite a disappointment that our renewal would be based on years that included a worldwide pandemic from which our kids are just starting to stabilize. Here are some data points that were not highlighted and need to be celebrated. Black students at Super School outperformed the IPS average on Spring 22 iLearn ELA. Hispanic students at Super School outperforms the IPS average on spring 22 I Learn Math. Our enrollment has showed to trend upwards in the last 2 years. Since becoming a partner in school year 18-19, staff retention at Super School has increased overall and exceeded the IPS average in school year 2021. Our WIDA scores had a strong trend upwards in 2020 with an 8% passing rate. That ranked us number 5 out of 45 schools. We also had over 140 ELLs during this time. Our discipline data has been on the downward trend. In 2017-2018, we had 974 behavior referrals from teachers, and in 2021-2022 school year, there were just 313. This is due to the hard work that admin, teachers have done with restorative practices, SEL training and education, our strong teacher retention, and building strong student-teacher relationships. In the 2021-2022 school year, our second graders had an iRead passing rate of over 30%. And one of the big reasons that a school will fail is for financial reasons, but if you look closely at our financial documents, you will notice that we have been very fiscally responsible. As you can see, we have amazing things happening at Super School that didn't appear to be taken into consideration when this decision was made. Please know that by having a due process taken away from us, you've robbed us of our experience to be heard. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chrissy Smith, followed by Rosalind Jackson, and if present, Dr. Luciana Lawson.
Good evening, Dr. Johnson, President Hawkins, and the IPS Board of Commissioners. My name is Rosalind Jackson, and I am a current third grade teacher at William Penn. And I first want to stand here and say thank you, because at the last board meeting, President Hawkins, you said, if we have something to say, you guys would be willing to listen. So I appreciate that. Although my school will be transforming into a middle school, it's still going to be an IPS public school. So that I appreciate. You listen to the voices of our staff and of our families at William Penn. I also want to speak about, as far as children and in the classroom, because I hear a lot of people saying about this curriculum is best, and this curriculum is best, and this curriculum is best. As a classroom teacher, it does not matter what the curriculum is. What matters is the person in that room delivering that curriculum to those students. Those students want to know that you care about them. Those students want to know that you will advocate for them. So as a teacher in a traditional public school, learning is happening. When we adopted the science curriculum this year, I was excited, opened up the kit. Colleagues will get to stay in that building to still work with those families, and so I'll still keep a connection with those families through them. And it's about the children. If it doesn't work for the children, then why do we do it? Thank you.
Dr. Luciana Lawson, followed by Carly Gable, and President Britt Leindecker. President Javon McCray.
Before I begin and my time begins, I wanted to pass out petitions and notes from our students at School 43. Hi, my name is Carly Gable. I'm actually a new teacher. This is my first year at IPS. I am representing my family at JWR School 43 that will be changing into the Edison Performing Arts Academy. In only 3 years of teaching, this will be my third Title I school closure. Every school I have poured my heart into has closed down. And I say closure because this is not a merger. As someone said earlier, they are taking over our building, and I am once again forced to choose between my district or my students. I moved from my old district to IPS seeking transparency, consistency, and for leaders guided by student needs. That's what the Rebuilding Stronger plan claims to do, is individual student needs. There's no doubt that School 43 can handle whatever decision is made tonight. They've been doing it for years. However, for our students, I believe that's a very different story. As adults, we're aware that trauma comes in multiple disguises. Our students may appear happy, but the staff that is with them every day, we know the unimaginable circumstances that they face. The staff still shows up to provide loving and a healing place for them. The most high-need trauma in our building is abandonment, a trauma that creates lasting effects for students and teachers. But the lack of support that we have is not the burden of our students, it's not the burden of us or administrators, it rests on the district's shoulders. The solution to this issue is not to abandon our students in our school and further traumatize them. The solution for our building is to provide further resources for these students. It is to care enough to not abandon them when things get tough and the situation seems impossible. The solution is to not divide our students from the relationships that they've built with these educators for years. I believe wholeheartedly that the vote needs to be delayed. We need to look at how we are rebuilding this school in particular and if it's working for these individual students. We have to support their needs without the resources to do it. Our middle school population needs to be in their own building with age-appropriate supports. And if we are here for our students, as our district so strongly proclaims, we must address these challenges straight on with everything that we have before we can take extreme measures that might further traumatize our students who are struggling. In our building, we serve one of the most vulnerable populations in IPS. Because of that, I do have to ask, where is the equity for these students? Do we fail them further at the benefit of others as a whole, or can we look at this and revamp it in a different way? Do we put hundreds of thousands of dollars into our teachers' bonuses in order to keep them in a building rather than investing those same dollars towards our students and our families? The answer is to provide equitable supports for all of our students throughout the entire district, including those at my school 43. Just because the name of the school might change does not mean our student population is changing. They will still be there, but the teachers will not. I want you guys to consider this, and thank you for your time.
Britt Leindecker and Javon McCray.
Good evening, Dr. Johnson. My name is Javon McCray. I'm the head football and track coach at Shortridge. Also, econ and government teacher at Shortridge. I have a different perspective being at the high school level. I'm gonna read something and some notes I took. But we need to do right by our community in all aspects. I am for the plan, but I am also for fixing everything that's free to fix now. I'm not from here, so my ties are a little different. But as a teacher and coach, I am invested in the community. And I hear a lot about what people say. From a coach's perspective, I do feel like culture is in the community with the athletic facilities. You have to invest in what you care about. I do feel like we don't do enough for our children in aspects of facilities in the building, the academia side and the athletic side. I think we need to do more. I am for the plan. I'm for 6 through 8, but there are a lot of things that we need to fix now before we worry about the plan. I do feel like any plan can work depending on the people that are pushing the plan. And again, I hear a lot of families because I am a coach and teacher, so I get different parents calling me for different reasons, emailing me, asking me questions about the plan. I do the best to my ability to answer questions, but one thing that I do see, not being from here and emotional as other people might be, there are some things that we do need to change as a community as well. It's not all admin and district. Some things we all need to change and work on. This is a whole community thing that we need to come together as and help fix, because the adults need to know the children come first. I think we all need to realize that we don't want to argue with each other. We need to help the children. So that's why I'm up here, is to help the children. And as a coach, I want athletics to go thrive, but there are a lot of things that we need to clean up. But I think we can. I don't think we need to argue as much as we do. The plan, to me, is headed in the right direction. We need to just trust it and be there for our children. So thank you.
Commissioner Hawkins, that was the last speaker.
Well, thank you, and I mean that from the bottom pit of my soul. Thank you for every speaker tonight, for your voice, for your words, your passion, and know that that is received by this body this evening. So I thank you again. Moving now to section 4 of the agenda, which is the consent agenda. The items included in the consent agenda were reviewed at our agenda review session on Tuesday and reflect all necessary modifications. Are there any questions or requests to remove any items from this evening's consent agenda? Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented?
So moved.
Motion and a second. Commissioners, any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, the consent agenda this evening is approved. Excuse me. We're going to move on to section 5 of the agenda. I'll note that there are no hearing. There's not a hearing this evening. However, we will have a second public hearing in this boardroom on December 6th at 6 p.m. We'll move on to section 6 of the agenda. I'll note that there are no board reports at this time or this evening, which allows us to move into section 7 of the agenda, which is an opportunity to turn the agenda over to Dr. Johnson, Superintendent Dr. Johnson, to discuss the unfinished and new business for the month of November.
Thank you, President Hawkins. And good evening, Commissioners. There are no items in Superintendent's reports this month, and there are 2 items in unfinished business. Item 8.01 is an additional appropriations hearing for general obligation bonds. At the September 29th, 2022 action session, our Chief Financial Officer, Weston Young, provided an overview of the usage of those GO bond proceeds and the financial details of the proposed bonds. In order to finalize this process, we must have an additional hearing on this additional appropriation of bond proceeds. So I will turn it over to Weston and Leslie Ann perhaps at this time.
Before we start, Mr. Young, I want to note that after the presentation by the administration and its advisors, there will be an opportunity for the public to make, excuse me, comments about the additional appropriation. At the hearing, we will ask that each person limit their comments to 3 minutes and keep those comments specific to the topic of the GO bonds. The notice, this notice was of the additional appropriation hearing was published in the Indianapolis Star and the Indianapolis Business Journal as legally required. Again, we'll now hear from IPS Chief Financial Officer Weston Young about the projects as well as the proposed funding and reimbursement approach as it pertains to the GO bonds and how they're structured. Mr. Young, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Commissioner Hawkins. The last 3 months, we've been reviewing this particular issuance. So in September, we held a public hearing on the projects themselves. We received approval of those projects and the reimbursement of those for the proceeds. October, we adopted a resolution to issue the bonds, and then tonight we're holding a hearing on an appropriation, which is the ability for us to actually pay the additional debt service for these bonds. Reminder, the additional capital needed is for our VoIP projects, the phone systems and the back-end technology for our telecom system, technology infrastructure projects, and then also some HVAC and plumbing projects at some schools. The financing details are on the screen. About $17 million will be issued over 3 series of bonds with the assumption of 5% coupon rates. We're estimating the interest expense a little over $1.4 million. The bonds will be paid back over 4 years, and the impact on the tax rate is a little over 4 cents. But when we look at projected growth in the assessed value of our district, we look at a neutral tax rate impact. As Commissioner Hawkins mentioned in his opening statement, we advertised this hearing 10 days prior, so on November 4th. We're holding the hearing, and what we will do after approval is submit this approval and resolution to the Department of Local Government Finance, which helps us set the budget for next calendar year. So we're looking at the process when we went to the budget for next for this school year, we did not have this bond issuance assumed, and so that's why we are seeking this additional appropriation. The amount is $17,445,000. So the next steps after the hearing tonight, we will go forward with the issuance of the bonds, either late November or early December. We'll receive those bonds and we'll make the first payment in January of '23. And just rationale for the issuance of these bonds, just to support our infrastructure for our one-to-one and device for our students and our digital curriculum, and also our staff operations, comfort of our buildings, and also preserving and conserving the resources in our operations funds and our cash balance. It's time to turn it back over to Commissioner Hawkins.
Weston, thank you again. Commissioners, before we officially open the hearing, any specific questions for Mr. Young or any members of the team? Hearing none, we'll now open the public hearing, and it is my understanding that we do not have anyone signed up to specifically speak to this particular hearing. If there is anyone present who believes they have registered to sign up to speak on a proposed project, and as well as the associated financing, would like to be heard, we ask you please to come forward and state your name for the record. All right, well, hearing none, we want to thank all those who participated in the hearing this evening. We appreciate your time and interest as it pertains to the projects as well as the future of our community. The board will continue to work with the administration and its professionals to look and continue to identify efficiencies to conserve tax dollars to meet educational means. Ms. James, if you wouldn't mind, could you please summarize the additional appropriation resolution?
The additional appropriation resolution provides the approval of the school corporation to appropriate school corporation funds for the project out of the bond proceeds within the current fiscal year.
Thank you, Ms. James. Can I have a motion to adopt the resolution, which is numbered 7965, additional appropriation resolution?
So moved.
Second. Motion, second, third there. Commissioners, any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. And the resolution 7965, additional appropriation resolution, is adopted.
Perfect timing. Thank you, Commissioners. Item 8.02 is an update on the disposition of the John Marshall property. Zach Mulholland provided this update on Tuesday evening to the board, and the administration requests the board's approval at this time.
Thank you, Dr. Johnson. Again, I just want to acknowledge Mr. Mulholland and your team for your hard work to get us to this point, so we're incredibly appreciative of you and your work. Commissioners, at this point, any questions or comments regarding the resolution? Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve Resolution 7962, authorization of transfer of the John Marshall building or facility to the City of Indianapolis?
So moved.
Second. Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you. There are 3 items in new business this evening. Item 9.01 is the administration's request for the board's approval of high school pathways courses. Dr. Morgan provided additional context on those courses on Tuesday evening, and the administration requests the board's approval at this time.
Thank you, Dr. Johnson. Commissioners, any specific questions or comments regarding the 23-24 course approval?
Yes. I had a question.
Commissioner Collins.
And I had sent an email earlier, but I might have missed it. I'm just wondering, on the first section of that list of courses, and the courses look fabulous. I wish I could take some of those, but they were there for all students, and so are those electives and who teaches those because they're online?
Yeah, so for the, as you saw, there were some that were specifically assigned to schools, and then there were some that were online. So for the online ones, those are additional courses for the pathways that I guess could be considered as an elective, but they're more or less to support students that may be missing a class, or maybe they need to make up some credits for their pathway, so they're additional. I think there were 4 courses at the top of that memo that are online, and the rest are directly included. And our teachers that are in that program track are the teachers that teach those courses. So some of those are existing. As we grow the program, some of those will need to be new hires.
And are there standards for that, like for the non-fossil fuel course. And are there some standards? Is there a state course guideline or standards-based curriculum?
Yeah, not all of those are standardized across the board in terms of the state, but standardized for the program. And so our director of CTE programs, Jennifer Berry, as well as our directors of academies and pathways, Austin Dodd, they did a crosswalk of the courses, what is required for that, and then also making sure it aligns to the requirements that are within the state, so that it fulfills the obligation for the high school pathways that the state sets out. So that's the standardization. But each of those different pathways and courses, some of them are not offered across the state. We're unique in offering them, but they're generally on board with the requirements for that pathway across the country.
Okay, so a student at Washington High School, if they take that course, then it would be taught by someone at Washington and then it would be similar or aligned with the same course at Tech?
Yes, so for those specific pathways, those pathways are at that specific school. So I think you may be talking about some of the online ones. So they may align to the online course at that pathway, which is specific to that school.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Commissioner Collins. Commissioners, any additional questions? All right. All in favor? I think we have two. We already have our motion and a second on the floor, right? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Oh, did we? I'm sorry.
I don't think we did a motion.
My apologies on that.
I make a motion. We approve.
I'll second it.
You got me lost, Commissioner Collins, in the coursework there a little bit. I apologize for that. We're going to start over here. Commissioners, we have a motion to approve the resolution as presented.
So moved. Second.
The motion is second officially. Thank you very much. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you. Item 9.02 is the proposed school year 23-24 student-based allocation policy. Again, Weston Young, our CFO, provided an overview of the elements of that policy on Tuesday evening, and the administration requests the board's approval at this time.
Thank you, Dr. Johnson. Commissioners, any questions or comments specific to the SBA update for 23-24? I see Commissioner Pritchard.
It's a quick question. In the resolution, number 4, there are some weighted factors that are in the formula. Have those been the same since the SBA model was introduced in, is it February 2017? Is that when we started?
When we first started, there were a couple other weights related to grade bands, and they were retired. And the new one that has been in place for the last 3 years is the ELL weight.
How often do we review those weighted factors and determine whether or not this is the correct weighting and factors?
We've actually taken every year an approach to look at to see if the weights are directing dollars to where we believe needs exist, and the real use of those dollars can address those needs. As we've shared before, the reliance on baseline funding has kind of shifted our focus on trying to really analyze how do we get schools off the baseline versus how we divvy up the limited number of dollars that go through the weighted student formula impacted by the weights. But I think at some point, what we've seen across the nation and across where we are, poverty is really the need-based metric that we've highlighted all through the implementation of SBA. We've seen ELL be one that compensates for maybe a lack of capture of some poverty in the poverty weight. So ELL is another of those weights that we believe long-term is probably going to have a part of our formula.
And when we review thes, presumably on an annual basis, is it just the administration that reviews those, or do we do it in tandem with school leaders?
So we've been meeting centrally, looking at the data. When we implemented initially, there was a lot of engagement, principal focus groups, et cetera. Again, the reliance on baseline is something that really has been the more focus for our district, lining up with our board goals and bringing that to the forefront with even an RBS conversation. But I think at some point, more dollars into the pool that can go through a weighted student formula is our goal. That hasn't been the case the last 2 or 3 years. And when we have the opportunity to have dollars go through a weighted student formula, I think that's something that we would definitely be considering, is saying, hey, we have more money. Now let's really look at this and make sure that the weights are appropriately situated.
And school leaders participate in that discussion?
Yes, that would be the plan.
Yeah. I wasn't part of this discussion in 2017, but was the impetus behind the SBA model, was that to give school leaders more flexibility? Was it at their request kind of to, is that where that came from, the SBA model?
I joined the district in 2015. In 2015, fall of 2015, the strategic plan was agreed upon. In that strategic plan was a priority of developing a student-based allocation formula and allocating dollars through a weighted student formula. And another part of that strategic plan was increasing autonomy. And so the student-based allocation, at times, if you look at districts around the states, a lot of people focus in on the weighted student formula, basically how are dollars distributed. What IPS was unique, as I networked and collaborated with national networks, is that IPS was doing two things at the same time. We were, one, implementing a weighted student formula, distributing dollars on need, and then also, at the same time, developing a framework where dollars are allocated and we're supporting, through flexibility and autonomy principles, utilizing those dollars and being the decision makers with those dollars. So it really stemmed from a strategic shift led by the board's strategic plan, the administration, developing the administration and pursuit of those goals.
And what is the mechanism for school leaders to give feedback on that plan? Do we ask for their feedback every year? How do they participate in this SBA evolution?
I can speak to the dollars and the weights. This is an academic strategy. If anything, the theory of action, which we talked about on Tuesday at length, it's the how much, how well. Like I'm the part of defining how much in dollars can we associate to the needs of students. How do we do that best? On the how well side, I've been networking and collaborating with academic lead Dr. Morgan and previous leaders in the academic areas. The collaboration with principals in feedback is what you hear from like an Allison Peterkin, where she's saying the dollars that I have allocated to my K-8 program, you heard her talk about what she can do and what she's had to make shifts in her allocations. That's been the same story for the last 3 or 4 years.
So they do have a chance to give feedback to the process.
Yes.
And it sounds like it was created in part because at their request. I'm just curious, if they still have a chance to give feedback during this process. Yep. Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Pritchard. Before we move officially to our motion, any additional questions or comments? All right. Do we have a motion to approve Resolution 7963 specific to the student-based allocations for the school year 23-24 as presented?
So moved.
Motion and a second on the floor. Commissioners, any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. Item 9.03 is an overview of the final Rebuilding Stronger plan. We presented this deck on Tuesday evening. We will review it again this evening, giving the significant nature of the proposed plan, after which time we will request the board's approval of the plan. So tonight, once again, we will spend time reviewing the path that has brought us to our request for your action tonight. We will re-anchor ourselves in the why behind Rebuilding Stronger, and we will present commissioners with the final updates to the Rebuilding Stronger plan. One of the questions we wanted to ensure that we precisely answered is what will be different for our students as a result of this plan. And I believe we do have compelling answers to that question. When I gave my State of the District address in September, I talked about a little girl named Aaliyah who was beginning her kindergarten journey in IPS. And I talked about how in the past, prior to Rebuilding Stronger, Aaliyah would have been assigned a neighborhood school or she could apply to attend a choice school. But now, Aaliyah will have her choice of a number of different programs, and her family can pick what suits her most, knowing that she will still be guaranteed to experience course offerings like music, art, algebra in middle school, and a chance to learn a foreign language. That is what her IPS experience will guarantee her. And that is what we want to be true for all of our students as a result of the work we will do in Rebuilding Stronger. What we know today is that just 34% of our middle grade students have access to band or orchestra. After Rebuilding Stronger, that number will be 100%. Just 34% of our students, middle grade students, currently have the opportunity to learn a world language. That number will become 100% after Rebuilding Stronger. Only 41% of our 8th graders have access to Algebra 1 now, but that number will also become 100% after Rebuilding Stronger. And while just 74% of our elementary grade students have access to computer science, after Rebuilding Stronger, that number will increase to 100%, and in music, we will move from 84% of our elementary grade students having access to 100%. With the implementation of enrollment zones, we will be able to reduce student mobility due to address changes by 76%. And once implemented, we will double the number of high demand and higher performing seats available to students across our district. As a result of this plan, we will also have 75% more students attending a school that is at scale, or in other words, at maximized efficiency. And if you look at the data regarding our special education programs, particularly for the classrooms that are available to our students with the most intensive need, that will increase by also nearly 10%. And those classrooms will be equitably distributed across all of the zones in the district. Next slide, please. When we went to our community last fall, what we heard from them was clear. More opportunities for our students, more access for our students who hadn't previously had it, schools that communicated love, care, and high expectations, and not just for students, but also the staff who support our students. This plan is not a slash and burn plan because our community did not ask us for less. They asked us to provide opportunities for all and not just some of our kids. And it is important to note that we are uniquely positioned as a public school district to provide experiences for our students that are not often available in a public school setting. For example, here in Marion County, IPS is the only public school district offering nationally recognized rigorous programming like International Baccalaureate or Montessori's to our families at the elementary or middle grade levels at no cost to them. If a family, for example, wanted an IB education, it would come with a hefty price tag. At one local school in our city, for example, that cost is $21,000 per year. So we are proud of providing these opportunities to our families, and it is our job to ensure that they are available and accessible, not just to some of our families, but to all of them. And we believe we are doing this through Rebuilding Stronger. Not only do we believe in the program models that we are replicating, but there is also research that supports the programs we've chosen to replicate. In the case of Montessori and International Baccalaureate, research demonstrates long-term benefits for students in terms of their health and well-being, as well as positively impacting the probability of high school graduation and college enrollment. We know that there is a national gap in the participation of Black students in AP courses, IB courses, and dual enrollment courses. Our district is working to increase representation in all three of these areas, and our Rebuilding Stronger work in K-8 will help us create the foundation that builds toward this increase. Additionally, research supports the benefits of students who are engaged in the visual and performing arts, and again, points to gaps that exist among racial groups in terms of who gets access to these kinds of experiences. Rebuilding Stronger increases access for our students, and STEM is another area that has been prioritized nationally and by our state. It is a priority of the Indiana Department of Education, and over the past year, as recently as this weekend in the IBJ, there have been a number of articles published locally about the importance of growing the exposure and learning with STEM fields for our students, particularly our students of color. And Rebuilding Stronger will do this. And I want to reinforce the comment that I heard a speaker make earlier, that it isn't just the program. It is indeed the teacher who is working with that program that makes the difference. The fact of the matter is that we cannot be okay with maintaining the status quo. Today, we see significant differences in the enrichment programs like the arts or foreign language and music that our students have today. Our larger schools tend to have more offerings, and our smaller schools have fewer, as you've heard, because they are staffed to just meet the essential needs. For a number of our choice schools, we protect funding for those additional experiences because of the program model. And in reality, these disparities most negatively impact our students of color, who are more likely to attend small schools. Rebuilding Stronger does not advocate for taking that experience away from any student, but it does advocate that all students get the same opportunities that only some of them have today. Next slide, please. Again, when it comes to the differences in enrollment stability between our schools, no one should look at this data and think it is okay to keep going the way that we are. Due to our own practices, our choice schools experience enrollment stability at a rate of 96%. Meaning 96% of the students who enrolled at the start of the school year are there at the end of the year. For our neighborhood schools, that number falls to 70%. There are very real implications for our classrooms when nearly a third of students may transition over the course of the school year in and out of a classroom. And there are real implications for the sustained learning of that student who must make that move. We can do better. And so we are here at this moment coming to a very important decision that this board will make. I'll turn it over to Andrew to continue to ground us in our why and where we've been thus far in this work.
Thank you, Dr. Johnson. So I think the reality is this work has been or was born out of a strategic plan. So we have a strategic plan 2025 that the board passed a few years ago. And so this is what guides our day-to-day here at IPS. So you heard a lot of conversation tonight around curriculum, around programs. Weston just, kind of working through some bonds and financing. That's the work that is happening on a daily basis here at IPS. And so the vision and mission that the board revised in 2018 articulates that IPS is a family of excellent public schools in which every student has the opportunity to succeed and the power to create their own future. And then here are our 5 core values: students first, racial equity, continuous improvement, integrity, and community. And again, these were developed over the past few years with a lot of community input and feedback. And then here are 4 strategic priorities. And again, this is what our teams are organized around. This is what is guiding the work on a daily basis: increasing access to rigorous curriculum and instruction, promotion of racial equity, foster authentic community partnerships, and operate and fund strategically. So the reality is Rebuilding Stronger is an initiative that was born out of our core values and our 4 priorities, and is something that I think supports all 4 of these. I know Dr. Morgan will share here in a little bit about the tremendous momentum that we have right now as an organization in IPS. And again, that is in support of these 4 priorities, and so just a lot of good things going on throughout the district. And then I've heard a few speakers talk tonight about how the board adopted the ambitious goals as part of that 2025 strategic plan. And so what we have been doing over the past 2 years is on a quarterly basis providing an update to the board and to the community on progress towards the goals that you see on the screen, including the leading indicators that our teams are tracking on a daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly basis. And so this has been tremendously important, I know, as part of the Rebuilding Stronger plan, but also just serving as a foundation to guide the work on a daily basis. I'll turn it back over to Dr. Johnson.
Thank you. So this is not a new slide for this board. I believe we've shown this in nearly every meeting we've had, but I do think it is powerful to keep at the front of our minds that as we've thought about our future, we've looked back at our history, particularly with the racial equity lens. It is critically important that we put our current reality into a historical context, because there is a long history that brings us to the place we are in and the challenges that we face. And racism has played a consequential role in where we find ourselves today. And we can see in the world around us all the ways that it has continued to influence our present. Many don't realize, but at its peak in the 1960s, IPS served over 100,000 students. But that number began to drop precipitously after 1970, when UNIGOV consolidated city and county government units, but stamped into place 11 different school districts within Indianapolis. This also came just prior to IPS, a former school board, being found guilty of continuing to cultivate and implement practices that led to the explicit racial segregation of its students. The solution to that guilty finding was mandated desegregation, which came in the form of one-way busing of our African American IPS students from the district into surrounding townships. One way, only out. Over the next 25 years, from 1973 to 1998, when busing started to phase, IPS enrollment decreased by more than 60,000 students. The mandate of one-way busing, combined with movement out of Center Township, as well as the implementation of state education priorities, have helped to create over time a very expansive school choice landscape that has become Indiana and Indianapolis. And so it's important to anchor ourselves in what brings us to this moment in time, as so many of our residents, particularly our Black residents, have lived through and experienced the impact of these policy decisions. And as we consider the future, we know that it is critical to the long-term sustainability of our district that we position ourselves in IPS and as IPS as the choice that families want to make and will make for their children's education.
Thank you, Dr. Johnson. So as Dr. Johnson shared the things, maybe the policy decisions and the history that has paved the path sort of to this moment. I'm going to zoom in a little bit more, even beyond what Andrew did with our 5-year strategic plan and our existing organizational values and strategic priorities, and just talk about some of the engineers, members of our facilities team with them, and they assess the deferred maintenance and some of the immediate needs in all of our building capital plan. Then the summer of 2021, we completed a demographic study with an organization called Davis, where they looked at our 7-year historical data, 10-year enrollment projections, looked at what is the number of resident students in each of our individual school boundaries, and what does the census data, as well as their methodology, tell us about how that might grow or change over time. So we're looking at what do we expect to see across the district in an individual school communities. And then the fall of last year, Patrick Harrell, our executive director of enrollment, gave what has become his annual enrollment trends update. And that's really the place where we saw some of those pieces that Dr. Johnson referenced start to come to light over the last few years. Issues such as the stability rate at many of our choice programs, and you contrast that with the mobility rate at our neighborhood schools, as well as trends that showed that our choice and innovation schools were increasing in student enrollment over the years, while our neighborhood schools were decreasing, and really start to get our arms around some of these foundational pieces of data that are needed for sound planning. Then when it came to specific engagement for Rebuilding Stronger, again, I'm sure the board will remember well in the fall of last year where you went and you did the phase 1 engagement. So you heard from folks all across the community of what they imagined IPS could and should become. And that's where you generated for us the guiding principles that we'll see on the next slide. After that, we entered into phase 2, which is where we had our committee, our advisory committee for Rebuilding Stronger. So already 40 individuals from across the community, various constituents, many different walks of life, who brought to us their specific perspectives as we grappled with the data that's above the line on the table. So they looked at the enrollment trends with us, they looked at the facilities data with us, and as we started to generate what possible solutions would be, they were a bit of a sounding board for the administration as we continued to run possible ideas through those guiding principles that the board had given us. Then, as you know, the plan dropped on September 13th, and that's when we started our really intensive period of engagement that ran through the last week of October. And that's where they had the feedback window in response to the draft plan. And then for about a week or so after that, we went and we made adjustments to the plan. Then we presented to you on October 27th about 19 succinct changes to the plan. And then we received additional layer of feedback during about that first week of November, and then again this past Tuesday, presented to you the final plan that's here before us for a vote this evening. I mentioned the guiding principles that were one of the products of phase 1. Of course, we've seen these many meetings now, and so won't read them, but we'll echo something that Dr. Johnson said. I believe she said this isn't a slash and burn plan. We've also thought of it as a plan of abundance. So the board asked the administration to deliver a plan that addressed these 10 guiding principles. And here, this is where we see so many themes of equity of access, serving all students well, and particularly our students of color, having facilities that make students see their value all around them, and doing it in a way that ensures that all students, in particular, students who are new to the English language, are feeling welcome while considering the long-term financial sustainability of IPS. And you told us what you wanted to see in the plan. You also told us how you wanted to see us do it. What are the things that we should consider as we're engaging around the plan? doing the planning itself, and moving to implementation. So as you see in the next slides that Dr. Morgan and Christina are going to do, we're thinking a lot about implementation, and that's in large part because of so much of the feedback that we got. We saw that parents and community members were very invested in seeing how would we do this plan well so that they could support it. So you'll see a lot of students first, right? Kiddos are at the center of everything that we do, and we already mentioned a lot of the racial equity, continuous improvement showing up, as you told us, in those guiding principles and in alignment with our values. So when you look at what these 4 commitments to the community were that you told us to keep in mind as we delivered on those guiding principles, they are exactly our values, part of how we do work every day. So doing so with integrity, going back to the data, it's the same data that we showed on the arrows slides. And as we do it, listening to the community, engaging with the community authentically as we move to implementation now at this phase, should it pass this evening. And again, I think Dr. Morgan will talk a lot about this as we've seen, like in the middle school planning, for example, taking those kinds of things into consideration. So on the engagement window that we did September 13th through October 21st, we've held more than 75 meetings, at least 2 family meetings at every school, 12 of those community-wide meetings, 3 of which were virtual and 2 fully in Spanish. And as the engagement went on, we recognized that there were some schools that we called schools of focus, where we needed to put additional effort forth in order to make sure that parents were receiving the information that they needed to be informed, and then also knew how to ask questions of the district or give us feedback. And so that's when we distributed 900 packets in the car rider line and at the bus stops to students and families. And then our FACE team made 800 individual phone calls at those target schools and spoke to parents as well about the plan's impact on their students. There were several ways then that we gathered feedback, just the channels throughout this process. So first were those meetings at every school. We had over 1,000 participants come to those meetings. At the community-wide meetings, it was a little over 230. And then we had the survey open on our website and via QR codes that anybody could access from their mobile device. We had almost 1,000 feedback surveys. Every one of those got read, and that's how we coalesced the trends that then precipitated some of the changes that you saw in the plan, both on October 27th and then really up through Tuesday. Folks could also ask questions through Let's Talk, and we received and answered 660 individual questions. We also held focus groups at a few different windows throughout this process. In total, we had about 40 parents and 40 students at those focus groups. And then as it relates to our families and parents of students with special needs, there was particular specialized outreach there as well from our USS team. So almost 250 phone calls and in-person meetings with parents of students with special needs. We heard from principals and navigators at every school. So every school had been asked to identify somebody who was going to, drop what you're hearing into a tracker where we could watch that and again draw out trends. So we would know what folks were asking in the car rider line, what parents were saying when they were coming into the front office, and again we had them share those with us so that those were coming to us as well. And then finally, as school board members, you heard a lot of public testimony and then received many emails and other communications as well. When it came to getting the word out, we wanted to share a few of our website analytics and just communication analytics. And this is, I think, an updated version of a slide that you first saw on October 18th. So we have the sort of landing page for the Rebuilding Stronger website. You can see we had over 100,000 unique views there. And then the blocks below it, they're not going to all add up to that, right? Because there are lots of subpages in the Rebuilding Stronger website. But you can see there just the number of visitors to, that's the plan by school. Each school has its own page, the community conversations, et cetera, with how many people visited those, and then how many of those were unique and about how long people lingered on each page. Then on the right-hand side, we use something called School Messenger, where we can just communicate directly to parents and how they choose. It's usually a text message, a phone call, or an email. So you can see there that we had over almost 19,000 recipients for every message in one of those 3 formats. And then since September, whenever the plan was released, and we did a lot of outreach to both raise awareness of where people could visit the website and get information or come to the meetings, we sent 8 different school messengers between September 13th and when the feedback window closed in late October.
Thank you, Jamie. I also wanted to take a moment to continue to acknowledge the tensions that all of us are holding in this moment. I've shared these things as I've talked with community members or staff members or families, and I think it is important that we continue to acknowledge them here as well. First, I think it's important to name that while we can all recognize that change presents opportunities, it is also incredibly hard. We feel that right now, and we've felt it deeply over the past several weeks. I think we could also acknowledge that even as we are all particularly myself, believe in what is in store for our district moving forward as a result of this plan, that there's also mourning for the loss of what is in our now and our present. I recognize that in this plan, there are recommendations that will change how school communities are configured, what decisions families may be making for the future that are different than what they initially thought, colleagues who may not be able to work together anymore. Those things are sad and they will be mourned. And so we can both mourn this reality, even as we believe in what is ahead. We can hold that tension that a number of us are experiencing right now. And finally, as I said for the last year, the reality is that we can do anything, but we cannot do everything. Trade-offs are real and they are necessary. But we believe what we are proposing is our current best thinking that reflects what our community told us is desired. It moves us forward to create a better experience for all of our students, because we know maintaining the status quo is unacceptable. Outside of our district, we also know that there are some concerning statewide trends that have emerged in Indiana, and we believe our plan plays a role in beginning to address some of those as well. In a recently released report from Ascend Indiana and Employ Indy, they noted that too few high school students are pursuing and completing a post-secondary education, and that there are racial gaps in post-secondary education that also show up in our workforce, with people of color underrepresented in high-paying and fast-growing careers that are driving our state economy. This graph visualizes the challenge we face with our leaky pipeline of students who fail to progress through the post-secondary education pipeline. Through providing a stronger experience for our students in grades K through 8, we can help create the conditions that will positively impact this trend. We also know from our business community that they have taken note of these concerns as well. In an April 29th article in the Indiana Business Journal, business leaders from across the city and community offered their take on where our attention ought to be focused as a state. And nearly across the board, education emerged as an area of focus. We believe the time is now, and we believe Rebuilding Stronger is a step in the right direction for IPS to do our part. As proposed, we believe that the Rebuilding Stronger plan addresses the board's guiding principles, anchored in the ideas of more excellent offerings in our schools, more great schools across our district, and expanded and more equitable access to those schools and offerings. The board asked us to bring a plan aligned to the guiding principles that you presented us, and I believe that we have delivered such a plan. I'll turn it over to Dr. Morgan to share with the board the momentum we currently have as a district and how we aim to build on that momentum through Rebuilding Stronger.
Thank you so much, Dr. Johnson. As Dr. Johnson mentioned, now is the time for us to really begin to think about how do we do comprehensive reform in our district. And I want to remind us of the work that we've already started to do. So Rebuilding Stronger largely addresses our elementary space and also middle school students, but I want to remind us of the work that we started to do in 2018 around our high schools. Really thinking about some of those gaps that Dr. Johnson mentioned, that of students, particularly students of color, that are not entering into college or even the workforce, or even just being prepared to enter into the STEM fields and all the jobs that are out there now, not only within the state but in the country. We wanted to address this through our high schools. So we went through a comprehensive reform process in 2018 to really make sure that we were providing high quality pathways and academy programs within our high schools, not only just our direct managed high schools, but also our innovation, our larger innovation network family of schools. So this work began in 2018, as I mentioned. At the start of this process, we only had 12 programs, 12 CTE programs within our schools. Now, with the class of 2022 being the first cohort that went through the full program and graduated through the pathways, we now have 24 CTE programs, 5 high-quality IB programs, and 2 Indiana College Core programs that allow students to do dual enrollment and be on a pathway to a 2- or 4-year degree, and that's in 2 of our high schools. So we started doing this work, and we only were able to do this work through strategic partnerships with many of our universities, Butler University, Ball State, IUPUI, and also Ivy Tech. some of our colleges, also some of our employees, and working with Employee Indy on work-based learning initiatives. And so many of our employers across the city have helped us really think about how we would make sure that there were pathways and partnerships within our high schools. And we would not be able to do this without the philanthropic support that we've had of nearly $12 million, support coming from our Indianapolis Public Schools Foundation, Eli Lilly, Salesforce, JP Morgan Chase, also Bloomberg, all investing into things such as the Future Centers and our Pathways work, just to make sure that we were providing high quality options within our high school. So these were the inputs, and we've seen some results. We still have a long way to go, but just in 5 years of implementing this, and I do want to note that we've only had one cohort to graduate through the full pathway, you can see how the progress has gone. Before I go into the chart, I do want to note that in the class of 2021, there were over 1,500 credit hours earned in dual enrollment through partnerships with Ivy Tech, Vincennes, and then also our IB and AP programming. This was not available before we started doing this high school redesign work. Students enrolled in Pathways in the class of 2017 was just above 1,200. Now we're almost at 5,000 in the class of 2022. When we first started our work-based learning experiences in 2017, we weren't tracking it in a strategic way. There were only 74 exposure engagements. Now over 12,000, including 45 students that had direct internships with employers in our city, many of which were paid. Students that were actually earning a degree where they were going through a pathway, and we know that our state has now just revamped the work around pathways and the requirements for graduation. But in 2017, only 18% of students were actually graduating with a CTE pathway. Now we're at 49%. Still a long way to go, but incredible growth with only one cohort that has gone through this program. And so just wanting to show the initiatives that this board and our community have invested in, we've delivered, and we're continuing to show results. And I'm confident in the work that our community, our teachers, our leaders are doing day in, day out to continue to deliver results. Speaking of results, we want to talk about some of the academic progress. We've shared before with iLearn. Over the past couple of years, we've adopted new curricula in our buildings, high quality curricula, and it's not just the curriculum. I love what I heard the teacher say. It is our teachers doing the teaching and learning day in and day out. And last year, we saw a year-over-year growth in iLearn for ELA. We were number 3 in Marion County in terms of the growth, only with Hamilton Southeast and Beech Grove outperforming our IPS direct managed schools, and then our larger IPS portfolio schools were right behind us. This was growth in ELA. 1 year growth for math, number 2 in Marion County in terms of growth, with only Beech Grove outperforming us, and then our IPS portfolio schools being number 4 in that. When we think about 3-year change, this is one of my one of the data points that gets me most excited, because we talk about what COVID has done and the impact that has happened in our school. Due to the work of our teachers, our leaders, IPS was number 1 in the state for districts with an enrollment of 7,500 and more for ELA, and we were the only district to surpass where we were pre-pandemic. And in math, though we didn't surpass where we were pre-pandemic, no one had in the state, we were still number 1 and came closer to where we were pre-pandemic. This is the work of our teachers, our leaders, our community, our scholars, doing the work day in and day out. And so this is why we're ripe for this change right now. I also want to show, I know we've been doing the work around a lot of the opportunities we're providing with our students, and revamping things such as our grading practices and the work that we're providing to give students more opportunities. And over time, you can see this is our quarter 1 failure rate. The orange line is our failure rate for quarter 1 over the past 3 years. And then the blue line is how many students are receiving passing grades. And so you see that we continue to have less students failing, contributing to our on-track and graduation rates, and more students passing classes. Many of those are A's and B's. And happy to report that our first quarter 1 failure rate is an all-time low for IPS at 7.9%. And then some other metrics. So we just finished our round of NWEA for beginning of year. Despite all that's been going on in the noise with Rebuilding Stronger, our teachers are keeping their head down and working with our students, and we continue to see growth. For 3 years, over the 3 years, our beginning of year NWEA is at an all-time high in terms of our growth, with ELA being up by 3 percentage points from where we were last fall, and math being up 6 percentage points. Our freshman on track rate last year increased by 12%. These are students that are on track to graduate and showing demonstrated results in the work in our high schools. Of course, through the work that we've been leveraging through ESSER funds, we've been able to provide tutoring for all to help close those gaps for our students. Investing in programs such as Proving What's Possible to make sure we're recruiting teachers and leaders, and then also Talkspace, which is providing mental health supports not only for our staff, our community, but also for our students. And then above all, the process we've gone through to adopt high quality curricula and also our balanced assessment work. So all of this work is happening even before we think about what's happening with Rebuilding Stronger. So when you ask why I have confidence, and I've heard a couple of comments around the confidence that we have to do this, it is a big plan. It is a lot. Change is hard. But we've already demonstrated that we're making incredible growth. And it's we, the collective we, our teachers, our leaders, our community, our students, our parents. And so we're so excited that IPS will continue to offer a diverse set of options, being one of the few public systems, not only in our state, but in the country, to offer so many options, exploratory options, inquiry options, visual and performing arts, dual language, and so many more, not only in the elementary space, but in the middle school space. And now this connects with the high quality pathways programs we've done in our high schools. So I'm just excited to see the work that we'll continue to do and the results we'll continue to make on behalf of our scholars.
So with all of that buildup, now we're going to share a few quick updates to the plan since we last discussed it on October 27th. So first is Early Learning Indiana. We did share that as part of the plan in September, we were forging a partnership with Early Learning Indiana, so that part is not new. What is new is that we've secured the location to be at Thomas Carr Howe. So Early Learning Indiana will co-locate about 6 classrooms to serve approximately 88 children in ages birth through 4. Co-locate there with the middle school that will launch at Howe in 2024. And it's exciting because it's also one of our sort of human resources perks that we're offering. So part of this partnership is that any IPS employee will receive a discount as well as priority placement at any Early Learning Indiana site.
We've also engaged in a number of conversations with families about the middle school experience, and particularly from a number of families in our Montessori schools. We heard from them a desire to remain K-8. And as we've discussed before, we do not believe that that is a viable path forward at this point. However, we did hear and do believe we can address the concerns around how to ensure that as we bring together 3 unique programs, in this case, Reggio, Montessori, and CFI programs, into a shared middle school experience, that we can, during the planning process, ensure the qualities most valued in those programs can be braided together in a coherent way in the middle school. So to enable that to happen, we will formally convene a group of teachers, the practitioners in the classroom across each program type together to serve as a formal advisory to the principal of each of the middle schools during both the planning year and then into implementation. In the case of Arlington Middle School and William Penn Middle School, we will convene a similar group to support in ensuring coherence in the implementation of the STEM model across those 2 schools.
Another significant piece of feedback that we received really since October 27th was around the proposed, what would have been a co-location of the dual language immersion middle school and the high ability middle school at Harshman, with the dual language being run by our innovation partner Global Prep and the high ability being run by IPS. As a result of that feedback, our proposed update to the plan is that both of those programs be IPS direct run, so no longer doing the partnership with Global Prep at that particular site. So we would then propose that dual language and high ability, both there is 1 school with 2 pathways within the school. Students who qualify for both would be able to access coursework in each and in both. Previously in the plan, we had proposed some investment in the facility to separate the space, do some separate offices, separate entrances. That is no longer necessary, obviously, but we will still continue with the athletic field improvement, and that was in Dr. Murphy's presentation last night. Also, what will still stay the same is that Harshman will not bring in a full class of 7th graders, because the students then, when they would be in 8th grade, any student who will be at Harshman in school year 2024 needs to have either been identified as high ability or qualified for dual language. So we didn't want to bring in a cohort of 7th graders for 2023, some of those students who may not then qualify to be there that next year. The district is still committed to exploring the growth of dual language with Global Prep, potentially on the west side of our city. So what does that mean then from an enrollment and transportation perspective? So the table at the bottom there walks it out. So all of this is proposed for 2024 in terms of what would happen at each of those schools for both the grade level and then where the enrollment priorities in transportation would serve. So for GPA, it will remain K-8 as its innovation agreement states today, and they would have both transportation and enrollment priority for zones 1 and 2. And then Potter would do so for zones 3 and 4, it would become K-5. And a dual language student in the grades 6 through 8 would be served at Harshman, and that would be for zones 3 and 4, but the dual language programming for the middle grades would be district-wide. And again, that was the same as the prior iteration of the plan as well.
For a number of months, we've also heard from a number of families who are interested in the district growing our innovation partnership with the Paramount Schools of Excellence.
To new school leaders an entire year, not only to participate in all of the professional learning and development that will happen for staff in the district, but also to recruit and plan for their buildings and giving them an ample runway. Just looking at the schools that are experiencing program change, we also have talked before about and are still committed to providing supplemental administrators to support our current principals in not only planning, but continuing the learning that we will have to do in school year 23-24. Those supplemental administrators will be named and matched in spring of 2023. Next slide. We've said from the beginning that we know we have to not only recruit but retain, and staff voice in addition to school leader voice has been really important, and we are prioritizing that not only within human resources, but I think as a district with the commitments that we've shown and being responsive to what our staff have said are important in this process. And so looking at how we need to be flexible with our staffing, we are already undertaking some of that operational planning right now. And just looking at that third bullet, partnership with our USS team to ensure that 100% of our impacted SPED staff also have an opportunity to get their early offers in the same time that our teachers will, is about that cohesion, communication, and clarity for our staff on where their future lies as it pertains to this program as we ramp into the 23-24 planning year and then beyond. And then lastly, just thinking about how that advanced planning continues to develop and how we can adjust how we have always done things, for lack of a better term, to do them better and more efficient. And one of the ways that a few of the ways that we're doing that is looking at posting school budgets earlier. This year, you all just thankfully agreed to pass SBA for next year, which is a few months earlier than we usually see that come before the board. And then also advanced business partner outreach to school leaders and teachers ahead of winter break so that they have an idea of what 23-24 will look like for them and their opportunities. Just to reiterate the commitment that we've made to trying to retain staff, we look at our impacted staff in this current year, there will be about 115 total. And so one of the things that staff reiterated when we asked them for feedback was how important it was for them to be able to stay connected with their current school communities. I don't remember the exact number, but I think we were at about maybe 230 initially directly impacted staff in this current year before the plan changes that we made. And so you can see that we've lessened that amount, and I think that that shows our priority in keeping our staff in a place where they are comfortable and they are still connected to their current learning communities. We have our financial retention strategy, and this year we have directly impacted staff receiving that $10,000 bonus, principals and assistant principals receiving $12,000. And for the principals who are leading schools who will be ending instruction, will receive a $20,000 bonus as well as opportunities to stay on with the district in the planning year. The recruitment strategy to specifically address some of the vacancy needs we see around SPED and those hard to fill positions. We have an $8,000 signing bonus that was a part of the SBA approvals that you all just passed that will post with our 23-24 positions in order to ensure that we are still competitive in the landscape that is a tough one right now for recruiting teachers and school support staff. And then lastly, just ensuring that, we continue to drive the initiatives that we launched ahead of rebuilding stronger planning, really taking a foot, proving what's possible. And my commitment has always been to continue to survey staff, hear their feedback, and want to be responsible not only and accountable to them around their future interests and the things that they feel are important in this plan. And then enhancing our district-wide professional development. Dr. Morgan mentioned that we already have some planning and have started to integrate some of the things that we know will be really important to provide a professional development opportunity for our staff, that to begin this year as well.
Some next steps we have around our merging community of schools. We have some merging schools that are proposed for next school year should this plan pass. And so we are committed to making sure that that is successful. A big part of that is making sure that it's a community feel. Some of that is the instructional, needs, preparing our staff, our leaders with the instructional model and professional development. But a lot of that is also just community, bringing families together, meet and greets between the staff, and also making sure operational and hiring needs are in place. So this is top of mind for us for our emerging schools. Also, when it comes to special education, on the next slide, we've been really committed to really making sure that we're increasing access to our special education programs through Rebuilding Stronger. And so one of the data points that Dr. Johnson shared earlier is that Rebuilding Stronger actually increases access in our specialized programs by nearly 10%, and then distributing them throughout the programs throughout the city, and not just being in isolated programs. And so there will be more access. But in order to do that, we need to make sure that the facilities are in place, that we have all of our operational needs. And so our USS team has been collaborating with our operations team to make sure all of those are in place. And in addition to all of the special education moves being on the individual web page of the school, that's where we've made all the changes prior. We are in the process of standing up a special education website specifically linked on the RBS webpage. If it's not live now, it will be soon, where if you are a family member of a student with special needs, you can go to that page to just see all of the different options that can help you with choosing or just knowing what is taking place in your building.
And then finally, just want to share with the board that we are planning to launch in January our annual, it's typically an annual call for innovation school applications or further partnerships, both for partners and then also for folks who are particularly interested in a facility partnership. What will be a little bit different this year is that we're focusing, we have a spin there in the bullets, how we're defining it. It's schools that consistently perform at or above the state average for all students, and additionally for students of color on the state assessments. That's both for proficiency and for growth. Also, we would like to see evidence of a reduction in the achievement gap for those schools. So as we heard from our public speakers, it has been often a topic in the space for Rebuilding Stronger. We know that that is a challenge that many schools face and that we face. And as we seek to improve that data, we would also want to see that from anyone who seeks to partner with us. Also, we want to see schools that limit suspensions overall, and especially for students of color and students with identified special needs, a track record of success partnering with the local school community. And then finally, we do acknowledge that we've had some public interest from a few charter schools, specifically Adelante, KIPP Indy, Victory College Prep, who have expressed interest in an IPS facility, and then also continue to acknowledge interest from our community in seeing further partnership with Paramount Schools of Excellence.
And so we want to show this slide again because these numbers are not just statistics or numbers on a page. These are real changes in the experiences of our students, real changes in the stability of our schools and classrooms, and real changes in the increased access and equity of opportunity for our students, especially our students of color. Next slide. And so again, I remind us all of Aaliyah, who we started this presentation with, and what we want to be possible for her and her future. The status quo is not good enough. We believe we can deliver on a better future for her, and that time is now. So we would ask for the board's formal approval of the plan that you've requested us to bring before you this evening, and we'd be happy to take any questions at this time.
Dr. Johnson, thank you, and as well to your team for the presentation this evening. Commissioners, any specific questions for Dr. Johnson or any other members of her team? Commissioner Arnold.
I know that we've raised the issue of replicating innovation schools as one piece and then the facilities as a different piece. How will those be rolled in together? I mean, they'll be doing they'll apply, I'm assuming, through the innovation school application process. that where it gets linked in as part of that application? They indicate that they want space in a school, or is there a separate process for use of the school separate from the innovation application? Not sure if that made any sense.
Depending on the partner, I think the most appropriate way would be through the application process if they were so interested in becoming an Innovation Network partner. As a resolution names, it is our intent to ensure that we are naming uses of facilities as we go through that process by the end of this school year.
I know you indicated they were two separate tracks.
That's possible.
Use of the facility and.
That's possible. If an existing school, for example, wants to partner and they don't need a facility, then they would just take the regular innovation application process.
If they do want a school.
They would need to note that.
Okay, in their application, that's where it starts.
Correct. Okay. And again, those decisions by the end of the school year.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Arnold. Commissioners, any additional questions for Dr. Johnson and the team? Commissioner Pritchard.
Thank you. I have a question about, if we know yet, what will be the process and the frequency of reporting to the board on the process, the implementation of the plan?
Sure. So the resolution calls for us to establish that timeline. So I think that's a conversation to come, likely at the start of the school year. I imagine, given the number of discussions and touch points we'll need to have both for schools who are making transitions into next year, that we'd be needing to bring updates to you all in the second semester as we're preparing for 23-24. And then I could also anticipate very regular touch points during the 23-24 school year as we are preparing for 24-25.
Thank you. And then I know we talk a little bit about involving teachers to help launch the middle schools, and we thought about how we would involve families and students in that process too.
Yes, so we are, again, proposing that we have the teacher advisory group that would meet to talk about, how do we think about the school culture and climate? What does that look like? What is that interaction with curriculum? How are we working together? And then families, which again, we heard a number of also to be a part of that process, again, of bringing the experiences they've had to inform the further planning of that school launch.
Okay, thank you. I think that'll be an important part of this process, to involve families and students in that. We've heard a lot of feedback since this was introduced about some people consider that they weren't satisfied with the way we were involving parents and students, and so I'd like us to turn that around and do a much better job at involving families on an ongoing basis in the next steps.
Yeah, I think we have learned obviously how important it is to be engaging and hearing back from our community. We build stronger plans when we are doing that, so that's been valuable during this process. This is not the last time families, students, staff will have the opportunity to weigh in and give feedback. In fact, I think we're entering a more exciting time when we can really dream together about what is it that we want to emerge in our schools. So I'm looking forward to those conversations.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Pritchard. Any additional questions, commissioners? Well, I know, commissioners, certainly many of us certainly want to offer and share with our community perhaps our perspective, our rationale for our vote. So I would ask at this point in time if any commissioners would entertain a motion to adopt resolution 7964 for the approval of the Rebuilding Stronger plan. Start with Commissioner Arnold.
President Hawkins. I want to begin my comments by expressing my gratitude to Superintendent Dr. Johnson and her team. You've spent countless hours listening to stakeholders and your governing board. Your commitment to the value of equity has driven your work, and you've demonstrated that you believe we can do better for our children. To my fellow commissioners, thank you for your time, effort, and passion for all of the students served by IPS. Spent many long hours together listening to speakers, reading emails, taking phone calls, and attending meetings. I'm proud to work alongside each one of you as we move this process forward, and I hope you will join me in supporting this resolution. Thanks to all the parents who called, emailed, spoke, and attended meetings to advocate for your own children. As parents, you have every right to do what you believe is the right thing for your children. My own children attended an IPS neighborhood school, Montessori program, IPS high ability program, parochial school, and even an out-of-district school. As a school board member, it's my responsibility to advocate for what's best for 31,000 students, and often that means that difficult change must occur. There are many components of this plan. Many of those components require major changes, and every component will take significant effort to make the positive change needed for our students. As a school board commissioner, closing schools is the most difficult decision we can make. I decided to run for a school board seat 16 years ago after IPS closed every school in my community. I've lived among boarded buildings, vacant businesses, and residential exodus because schools were closed. I intend to push the administration and commissioners to seek positive uses for schools that are identified to not serve students at the end of this current school year. Innovation partners, community centers, city government, or other entities must be quickly identified and supported. Currently have strong interest in the reuse of Raymond Brandeis, Francis Parker, and Paul Miller. It's imperative that we continue to foster partnerships that will best serve our students and communities. We have repeatedly heard that we should not replicate the Montessori and CFI models, but rather replicate models that include Paramount. It's my hope that a partnership with Paramount will come to fruition in the near future, but also that the district improves the educational experience offered through both Montessori and CFI models. This includes reducing the learning gap for our students of color. This plan is not about supporting the status quo, but improving every aspect of instructional opportunities moving forward. We also heard from many parents and staff regarding proposed grade configuration changes. It's obvious that there are some students who have great K-8 experience. Most of those students attend choice schools that receive additional resources, allowing them opportunities not afforded to students in our neighborhood schools. For me, this is all about equity. We cannot support a system that doesn't provide all of our students with equitable opportunities. Again, this aspect of the plan will take time and much work. It's imperative that building leaders, teachers, community groups, parents, and students fully participate in the development of these schools. This element of the plan is critical to better prepare our students for positive matriculation to high school. The approval of this plan is not an ending, but a beginning of hard work that's difficult but necessary. There are components in the plan that make me uncomfortable, but I do believe that the goal for equitable improvement is required and attainable. As a commissioner for the next 2 years, I pledge to seek information, engage with stakeholders, and monitor progress at every level to support, modify, and bring the plan to fruition. I'm hopeful that this current board will unanimously approve this resolution and that our 3 new commissioners will become actively engaged in creating the positive change that is possible. Every IPS student must have the best possible opportunity to benefit from a high-quality educational experience. We can only succeed if we work together and put children first in our effort to improve. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Arnold, for your remarks. Commissioner Collins.
Stronger plan. This board and leadership have listened, and I'm encouraged to believe that they will listen in the future. We have modeled, the leadership and the board has modeled every scenario in relation to the ultimate goals of rebuilding stronger. I appreciate the spirit of respect and compromise from everyone involved in this effort. It's my hope that this board and leadership will continue to work tirelessly to make Indianapolis Public Schools the district of choice, of equitable opportunity for all children, and of the guarantee of an outstanding education for all. I'm happy to vote yes for the current Rebuilding Stronger plan, understanding that the future is what we as a community make it. The plan may not be perfect, it may not satisfy everyone's desires, but it is a bold, solid, and optimistic plan that, in my opinion, can move IPS students into a positive future. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Collins. Commissioner Allen.
Good evening, President Hawkins, fellow commissioners, Dr. Johnson, staff, community members. After careful meditation, prayer, and numerous community conversations, I will be voting yes tonight. Let me be clear, I'm not voting yes because the plan is perfect, but because the time is perfect to do better and give more to our children. I want to express my sincere gratitude to the many parents, staff, community members who have been participating in our Rebuilding Stronger conversations that started well over a year ago. I want to thank the IPS staff who spent tireless nights crafting, redrafting, editing, modifying this plan. I know that you all often miss moments with your own individual families while working on behalf of the students and families of this district. To our community, thank you, thank you, thank you. You showed up to board meeting after board meeting, spoke your mind, gave suggestions, you attended work session after work session, you emailed us your thoughts, hopes, and desires, and filled out survey after survey. So for that, again, we say thank you. I'm also truly grateful for the handful of students that voiced their opinion on Rebuilding Stronger. Finally, to my colleagues on the board, thank you for speaking your truth. Thank you for your time on those long nights. Thank you for respecting everyone's opinions. Thank you for fighting on behalf of the individuals you represent. We didn't arrive at this moment easy, and it will not get easy after this. When I was elected by this community, I quickly realized that I don't have a silver bullet for success, but I do know a silver bullet for failure is doing absolutely nothing. Our children deserve better now. My good friend, State Senator Eddie Melton, says that now is an acronym. No wasted opportunities, or no opportunities wasted. Albert Einstein once said, insanity is doing the same thing over and over, expecting different results. We are at a time when the souls and the minds of our young people are in great danger, and we have to do something right now. They've endured a global pandemic, yet they have remained resilient. Because they are so resilient, we know that they have the creativity of George Washington Carver. They have the ingenuity of Madam C.J. Walker. They have the dignity of Booker T. Washington. They have the stability of Rosa Parks. They have the integrity of Frederick Douglass, the tenacity of Wilma Rudolph, the humility of Dr. Charles Drew, the mentality of John Morton Finley. They have the harmony of Louis Armstrong. They have the choreography of Alvin Ailey. They have the ability of Mae Jemison, the authenticity of Julia Carson, the clarity of Thurgood Marshall, the stability of Harriet Tubman, the electricity of Malcolm X, the originality of Garrett Morgan, the individuality of Sherrod Chisholm, the veracity of Joseph Lowry, the audacity of Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, and even the possibility of a Barack Obama. So we must invest in them now. We must create opportunities for them now. We must make sure that all of our scholars have access to the best now. When and if this plan passes, I hope that it does, I encourage the community to continue to come alongside us and help us create a better and brighter future for our young people. We can't do this work alone. We need you. Working together works, and most importantly, when we unify, we're more powerful than an atomic bomb. In closing, my mother, the late Vera Marie Jackson, was an educator for over 30 years in the public school system. One day she told me about a student in her classroom named Sammy. My mother had given her students some free time towards the end of the school year. And as she was walking around the class, she noticed that Sammy was drawing something strange on this paper. So she asked Sammy, what was he drawing? Sammy looked at my mother and said, I'm drawing a picture of God. My mother, a Christian woman, said, no one knows what God looks like. Sammy looked at my mother and said, like only a child could, they will when I finish my picture. What does it look like when all of our children have access to Algebra 1, world languages, band, computer science, music, and improved test scores for our Black and brown children? I'm not sure, but I believe when historians take a screenshot of the next few years of IPS, it is my belief that you will see just that. Let's roll up our sleeves and give our children the very best educational experience possible now. We will make adjustments when needed on the road ahead. Thank you, President Hawkins.
Commissioner Allen, thank you for your voice. And commissioners, anyone who'd like to follow that up? Commissioner Moore.
So of course, I knew that you were going to embarrass me there, Kenneth. So, but ditto to everything that you say, and I'm 100% and 50% behind you and for our children. Of course, I didn't write anything, but I do want to say that I will be voting yes. For District 2, I believe this is a good plan for my district. For several years, for many years before I came here, many staff, many people said that the East Side was receiving less than what they deserved. And for a long period of time, IPS has failed, in my opinion, my humble opinion, IPS had failed the east side of Indianapolis. This plan allowed our children on that side of town, not just the central part of Indiana, not just the Circle City part of Indiana, to receive opportunities that they have not been able to receive. We said a long time ago that we wanted to meet our children where they are. This gives our children opportunity to be met where they are. I believe that this will allow our children some hope. I believe this will also allow our community to thrive. For when our children have hope, our community have no need to fear. So with that, I say, I indicated a long time ago when we first started this process that to give us a chance, to allow us to hear what you had to say, and then allow us to design something we believe that you were asking for and that we believe will improve our children. I've heard people today say, and I know we're not supposed to respond to comments from the floor, but I heard people today say that we have not listened, we have not heard, we are not paying any attention to what you're saying as it relates to the Paramount School. I want to be clear. We heard you. We have been working with, communicating with, talking with, engaging with Paramount for over 3 months. We are working to try and make an arrangement that is beneficial to IPS, to our children of color, and to all of our children within the state of Indiana, within the city of Indianapolis. But please be mindful. We cannot do this by ourselves. Paramount has to also work with us and want to work with us. We believe that they do. We believe that it will come to fruition. And again, I want you to know that we will be monitoring this plan because all the things happen in the implementation. So you could be mad about things that didn't happen, they're not included. But if we don't implement what we said we have today, we will still have nothing. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Moore. Commissioner Slack.
First of all, I want to thank my fellow commissioners for all your words. I truly take to heart every single one of your words. You had to go and show out, but I appreciate all your words. Listen, this is not an easy vote. I want to thank all parents, teachers, and communities for taking the time to offer all your feedback on RBS. I want to take time to say thank you to the administration. I know it's been a hard journey. Fellow commissioners who've been there all night without nothing to eat until Leslie came. Thank you so much. I really, really, really appreciate you. You came to board meetings. You've wrote countless emails. You've continued to stay engaged with us over and over again. Education does not happen at school. It happens wherever you are open to learning. It is learning to make good choices, maybe uncomfortable, may be difficult choices. It is learning to act with purpose. As a parent, a commissioner, I must say, I am not overwhelmingly thrilled about RBS. This does not take away the tireless hours spent to create this plan, the effort and passion for 31,000 students that we serve and want the best for. However, I joined the Board of Commissioners to advocate for voices that don't seem to be heard. With that commitment comes accountability, and I see potential, the same hope that I have had in over the last 8 years in IPS. I want to share with you an experience, a very transparent experience. A student was once told that she had no academic growth in a school where her parents classified a successful school, an A-rated school. A school at the time where she did not see her Black self. She was bullied, she was ostracized, and this is a school model we are talking about replicating. A place where Black parents' voices were deemed to be too Black in PTA meetings. However, I do believe that Black and brown kids can learn from this curriculum. I believe that just because this experience was not a pleasant experience does not say the least that this model cannot be replicated. It does not mean that the rigor and the disciplines that are not true in this program. A place where this young lady also was able to learn that love is love, and that not all families look the same. These are a few gains that she took along her way in her journey. I believe that these communities need to interact more with the world around them, which is why I am excited to see them in racial equity training every time we have it. Yet again, this student kept believing in IPS, went into an innovation model, was chosen by her parents to focus on her academic success. The academic success was not focused on, but more of a behavior and cultural climate issue. This is a program we wish to replicate. So yes, keep following me along the journey. This does not mean that this program should not be replicated just because the experience was not pleasant for her. However, when I met this cheerful, very personable Mary Haste, she gave me a glimmer of hope. This student finally was able to discover her voice in the classroom, filled with opportunities. Freedom, the student got to see. Students that looked like her and students that didn't look like her. She finally felt like she belonged. I want to say thank you to Laura Hayes. To Laura Baker. She really took the time to catch her up. Not only that, the community rallied around her, surrounded her to help her find her voice, a voice her parents had instilled in her all along. And she finally started to enjoy education. This community has helped her stop the cycle of finding a good fit for my children. These educators have been doing the work and working in the community that represents all of IPS, Black, white, and Hispanic populations at School 87. This has been the best diversity that I have seen in IPS, a place where the emphasis has been placed on the growth of the child, the whole child, allowing the child to discover their own pace. Now, at 8th grade, I can say, she has mentored many of her peers, is achieving higher growth than ever before. She is excited to become an entrepreneur. When she looks in the mirror, she sees herself. When she looks at her school, she sees herself. When I look at how she has grown, I am indebted to these teachers and principal at School 87. I guess I say all this today to say that I trust that it's the biggest factor that I have as a parent and a commissioner and an advocate to continue to grapple with the trust factor. But I trust that this is the reason why I continue to run as a commissioner. Now, I am most thrilled about this plan to say that the fact that the teachers who parents and students trust will have the opportunity to build the curriculum for our new Montessori, CFI, and Reggio Middle School. I believe that with their support, that is the only way this plan can deliver the value that we now see in our K-8 models today. I have heard people say that CFI and Montessori models do not serve kids well. this is undeniably not the full story. As a board, we know that our district and our students deserve better academically. They deserve access to high-quality schools, our programs, and it is not a silver bullet, but a step in the right direction, especially programs that have proven to bring about high achievement. Since we know the most resource schools have been aligned along the central points of Indiana, which is the key pieces of the data that we gain from facility studies and focus groups, community meetings that we have been gathering all along for enrollment zones. That help to serve every student, no matter what zip code they live in, a quality option to choose from. Over the last year and some months, we have heard a number of community members, staffs in neighborhoods, and students and parents that envision rebuilding stronger, the stem out of this design. They now totally are transparent with you. Let me tell you, the design that I anticipated to replicate does not look like the design I see before me. I did not say I wanted to have only K-5 model designs. So, as a board member, I promise to give students, though, no matter what zip code they lived in, a quality education. So even though I wrestle with trusting the implementation process, I commend the administration on addressing this issue. However, you know it comes with a little bit of my concerns. I feel that inequality still equality still lies in our balancing of our innovation programs and our district-run schools, particularly around the ability to remain K-8 and autonomy. I am happy to reference page 6, though. I think it's bullet 10 that states that the district will continue to attempt a partnership with the grade bands to allow our new middle school to be not interrupted. I want to continue to see the same amount of accountability for our district-run schools and innovation charter programs. This also is another concern, and I'm not sure we're able to address it, that the tension continues to exist among charter and innovation and neighborhood choice. I believe that it is important that if we say it is a partnership, then it is really a partnership, not a competition or a rush to acquire more buildings for $1. But I would employ our partners to go down to the state building to fight for IPS and the funding for IPS, not to complicate our relationship more with a dollar law or in the new budget year. The implementation phase also concerns me. I believe that the criteria for tracking the academic outcomes of our students is imperative. My concern is that it is a lot going on at one time, taking a program model that has been proven very stable, K-8 to a K-5 model. However, I am aware that this plan offers several students that choice that these programs through Enroll Any that they pick every year, which the data that we gave compels me to move in favor of this plan. Another apprehension that I have is that we have yet to address is that our district enrollment. And I am not sure if we can address the enrollment. Many of our students leave our district after K-8, which has been seen on slide 10 of our program tonight. My hope is that parents trust teachers enough to stay throughout this process, and that the district can implement this process with success. And it gives parents and students and educators a reason to choose IPS. For once, we become a proactive district and not a reactive district to the ever-changing world around us. Therefore, become a place that is known for rigorous curriculums, dedicated teachers, and schools that are seen and heard, despite the underfunded resources that we continue to grapple with. If education is a weapon that we have in our arsenal, by all means, I hope that we use the words of Nelson Mandela, that education is the most powerful weapon which can be used to change the world. I hope we use it for the impact of positive change in our district.
Thank you, Commissioner Slack. Commissioner Pritchard.
Okay, I wasn't going to say anything, but I will now. That thank you for the opportunity. Now I just wanted to thank the staff, because I know they have spent so much time on this, so many hours. I never thought I would see so many of you at midnight, but we did. So thank you for all your time and your willingness to make changes and listen. And really thank you to the many, many parents I met, many evening meetings with them on front porches and homes, community centers, all the emails. I think I read and responded to every email, hundreds of emails. Thank you for doing that. I gladly am willing to advocate on your behalf. So thank you for all that input. That's it. Thanks.
Thank you, Commissioner Pritchard. Tonight I want to open my comments by speaking directly to the students of IPS. You will hear messages from adults throughout your academic journey that will make you question your skills and abilities. But I want to be very clear. Those messages are false. Your life is not predetermined. The path you make is yours. Your choices are yours. And at the core of Rebuilding Stronger is the belief that you deserve access to the very best that this community has to offer you. To the staff and administrators, I want to acknowledge that change is hard. We've all been through lots of it over the last couple of years. But I believe that you are poised to make this district truly incredible for the students and families that trust you. I am rooting for you and look forward to watching the seeds we are planting tonight turn into citizens who believe in their abilities and who will rise to the challenges that these changes afford them. To our Indianapolis community and our many, many partners of IPS, I want to thank you all for being a part of this process. Your voices have mattered. Your advocacy has mattered. And I sincerely hope that you continue to push IPS to be focused on the success of every student. To Dr. Johnson and my fellow board members, Dr. Johnson, no one has put more heart, soul, sweat, and a few tears into this plan than you and your team. You have overcome roadblocks at every turn, but instead of giving up and accepting the status quo, you've kept pushing. Your unwavering focus on students, your incredible integrity, and work ethic have been an honor to watch. Today is a milestone, but as you know, more than anyone, the real work is to come. I want you to know that I have the utmost confidence that you will continue to do what's right for children. To the board, this has been a lot. Thank you for sticking it out, each and every one of you. Listening to our community, thoughtfully engaging with one another and me. And I'm proud of all that we have accomplished. And to those who will be here to implement the plan, I cannot wait to see the fruits of this labor. I'm your biggest fan. I mean that from the bottom of my heart. And because of this, I am so proud to cast my vote in support of Rebuilding Stronger this evening. So with that being said, Ms. James, please call the roll.
Commissioner Arnold?
Yes.
Commissioner Collins?
Yes.
Commissioner Pritchard? Commissioner Slack?
Yes.
Secretary Allen?
Yes.
Vice President Moore? Yes. President Hawkins?
Proudly, yes. Thank you, Ms. James. Okay, commissioners, we'll move to section 10 of the agenda, which is closing comments. Do we have any commissioners that would like to have or share any closing remarks for our community this evening? Commissioner Allen.
Thank you, President Hawkins. Just real brief, want to again highlight that November is National Indian Heritage Month, and so just want to celebrate and lift up those that are part of our community and IPS family that identify with that community. And also, again, a shout out to our students who had the privilege and opportunity to participate in the Bands of America. They did an awesome job. I was extremely proud. As I shared on Tuesday, I wasn't crying, but my allergies for some reason acted up at the conclusion of their performance. It's just always amazing to see the hard work of our teachers and our students be displayed in such a phenomenal way. So again, shout out and kudos to them. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Allen. Commissioner Collins.
And I just want to lift up Tech High School. The faculty is having a faculty play, and it's Shrek. And so it ought to be a lot of fun. Early December, get your tickets and enjoy the show.
Thank you, Commissioner Collins. Commissioner Arnold.
I just want to wish everyone a happy upcoming Thanksgiving. Hope people stay safe and enjoy time together with family. And if you're traveling, stay safe and come back to us. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Arnold. All right, that concludes Commissioner comments. Dr. Johnson, we'll pass it to you.
Thank you. Tonight is an important night for the future of our district and our commitment to ensuring more great schools and better buildings with increased offerings and access for our students. We have been on this journey for well over a year, and while I'm fully aware that this plan brings forth opportunity, I also know that there is loss many in our community will feel. I don't want to lose sight of that. And I want to assure our families and staff of those schools who are impacted that we will walk alongside them through this transitional time. To my team, you have put your blood, sweat, and tears into this work. We have fiercely debated recommendations. We have started and restarted. We have continually challenged ourselves to be reflective, responsive, open to possibility, and most important, keeping our students at the core of our work. I am so thankful for all of you. We are in the arena, and we are daring greatly. And for that, I share my deepest appreciation for all of you. To the commissioners, thank you for your courage and your conviction. There were far easier paths to take than the one we did, but you challenged us to be bold. You pushed us to make this plan better at every turn, and I believe we've done so. You've worked as a collective team alongside us and have made me an even deeper believer in the power of we over me. There are 7 board members who sit on this platform, each of you with your own experiences, beliefs, and unique communities that you represent. But what I have witnessed is that despite those differences, you've been able to unite in the pursuit of a greater experience for our students. And a united team is a powerful team, and that does not happen by accident. So thank you for all that you have given. To our students, families, and community, this is one step in a journey that we will be on over the next 2 years. It is my responsibility as your superintendent to ensure that we journey together. We will not always agree, that I know, but I do believe that we are stronger together. And as we head into this next phase of implementation, we will need your partnership and your voices as we work to rebuild our district stronger. In my State of the District in September, I mentioned my pawpaw's last words to me that I have tattooed on my wrist, and I look at it every day, all is well. And tonight, I believe all is and will be well. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Johnson, for your closing remarks. Having completed all the items on this evening's agenda, this meeting stands adjourned.